Right.
Get the forgot to record, so I have notes everywhere telling me to record this time. There we go. People in. All right. How did everyone feel after a whole day on your phones yesterday? Good morning, Alejandra. Morning, Young Fang.
Good morning, teacher.
Martin. All right. So before I go much further, I want to post the link to the survey. So guys, while we're setting up, and any time that's a downtime, like there's something that you already know and we're waiting to get someone else up to speed or something, I want you guys to click on this survey right now that I sent out late last night. But didn't expect anyone to have had much of a chance to have filled it in the morning, unless you're a very early riser. But if you keep it open and start filling it as the day goes along, that would be extremely helpful. It's just to check in to see how last class went. This is the first time Oscar and I teach this class. And the first time you do anything, there's a lot of learning to be had. So I just want some feedback. Honest, it's an anonymous survey. So I just want to hear from you guys what you think, how it went, to help us make the course just every time we teach it better. Okay, so good morning. Oh, hi, someone wasn't here yesterday. Matt Madsen, right? No, yeah. Morning, Madison. Nice to see you. Here we go. Let me look up here the details. You are an iPhone user. There you go. I just have like some information about students that I need to know, and I was looking at the roster. There we go.
Deanna, when you get a chance, could you please post the passcode and the other code for
for the Zoom link? You're right.
Just in the chat.
Yeah. So for those of you who, okay, so okay. And passcode. Now, if on your phone though, just to be sure you get, if you on your phone go to your email, pipeline email, which I told you how to find your pipeline email yesterday, right? And just click on the link to this class on your phone, it'll connect to the Zoom on your phone. So then you don't have to type in the numbers. So that's another thought, right? So if you have the link to this class in your phone, then you can do that. And in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a quick email right now in case the last email for this
hello everyone, good morning.
Good morning. So here's what I'm doing. I'm posting an email right now to you all on your pipeline emails, okay? So that you can go to your phone as pipeline email, okay? And just click on this link from your phone and that'll get you into the class. So it's called Click Here from your phone, just that. And then your phone Zoom will light up when you click on that link and will let you in. So if you check on your phone, your Pipeline email, that should get you onto the Zoom class on your phone.
If you make me co-host, I can help you with.
Oh,
letting
thank
people in
you.
and such.
Thank you for reminding me. I assumed because of that you were automatically because of Emma, but there we go. Now you're co-host. All right, so hi everyone. Good morning, good morning. Buenos días a todos. ¿Cómo están hoy? Two things I have to say before we get fully started with today. God, after so many days of teaching in a row, last week I taught all day long, all week long, and I have no voice, but I think I'll survive one more day and then I have a few days of break. I want you to make sure that if you connect on Zoom with your phone, that you are connected to Wi-Fi. The last thing I want is for suddenly you guys to have a lot of data usage if you don't have unlimited data because you've been connected to Zoom with your phone all day, right? So make sure your phone is on Wi-Fi. That's just, I was thinking, I didn't mention that yesterday, and that's very important. So have your phone connect to whatever you're using as Wi-Fi for your connection, because being on your phone on Zoom all day could just drain your account. So Madsen, if you haven't yet, please download Zoom on your phone and connect to our class as well as from your computer. You need to also connect from your phone, because whenever I'm doing stuff that you need help with, or you need to show me where you're at, then I can see it through Zoom. Now, on your phone, we don't need the video to be on. Okay, so like right there, I'm seeing Jose's phone and you're seeing it, an image on it. That's unnecessary. So just turn the little video off of your phone. So para los que tienen el teléfono, pónganse, pueden apagar el video del teléfono. Pueden tener prendido el video de la computadora que están usando para tomar la clase, pero el teléfono puede ir sin video. Ok, así queda desconectado. All right. So let me go here. I also want to say, for those of you who came in after I made the announcement, that there's a link in the chat. Para los que llegaron después de que les expliqué, hay un enlace en el chat, okay? Arriba de todo, donde dice, please fill out this survey.
Oops, sorry. I just accidentally muted you, sorry.
There you go. Hay un enlace en el chat arriba de todo que es para una encuesta, preguntas para ver cómo le fue en la clase de ayer. So it's a survey that I emailed you last night, and it's to see how it went yesterday. Open it up, and then it will just be on there on our computer. And I want you to still pay attention to me, but sometimes I'm explaining things that you already know, that I'm helping someone else. That would be a good time to work on your survey. And maybe Anne or Oscar, whenever you see that I'm helping a certain person, you could just remind people, hey guys, go fill your survey or something like that, so that we don't have that be, but don't do it while I'm here actively talking and explaining to you, okay? All right, I am being warned today that I have an unstable connection, so this has only happened a few times. Hopefully it'll get better, but this has happened to me that 3 times in the whole year of teaching online, where I just drop out. But the class doesn't close, you stay there. And especially now that there's another host, but even when there's not a host, you all stay and I just disappear. If that happens, just wait and I'll get connected again. Or in this case, since it's a co-teacher, you can take the mantle, but meaning don't disconnect, wait it out, because I just need to connect again. It has happened to you guys that you drop out. Same with me, even though I'm the host. I thought the class would die, but it doesn't. Everyone just stays there wondering where the teacher went, you know? So that's how it goes. So si yo desaparezco porque tengo una conexión inestable, quédense esperando y Oscar va a seguir con la clase hasta que yo vuelva, porque hoy me están anunciando que tengo una conexión inestable. Okay. So, good morning. Good morning. Lots of you are here. And I am seeing people connecting with your phones, so that's great. I wanted to have little mini review of what we did yesterday. We spent a lot of time focusing on how important communication was and explaining how to work with a couple of different accounts. We've used Pipeline as the practice second account to get connected, but the idea was that you would be doing that with an account that you'll have yourself just for when you give it to employees or to clients, sorry. And the idea is that you'll get a new email, set it up for when you're going to be working with clients, and that you'll have that set up in your either Apple Mail or in your Gmail, and check on it constantly at the same time so that you don't miss it, but yet you keep work and personal life separate. And at the very least, especially people who are not accustomed to using email, to check your email at least twice a day, right? Maybe beginning of the workday, middle of the workday, maybe end of the workday, 3 times a day when you have an ongoing communication with clients who are waiting to hear from you. So ayer practicamos conectar la cuenta de Pipeline a tu teléfono al mismo tiempo que conectar tu cuenta personal. La idea es que van a conseguir una cuenta más de mail que sea para su trabajo, y esa también la van a conectar y van a poder chequear todo el tiempo, trabajo y personal por separado, y que la tienen que chequear al email todos los días. Cuando tienen un cliente, tienen que chequearlo todos los días para asegurarse que la gente que está del otro lado esperando una respuesta la reciba. So the important thing is when you have a client is that is communication. As I said, you can do a gorgeous job on their garden. You can be the best priced landscaper, but if you don't answer communications, they will drop you. You will not have that job anymore, and definitely that client will go somewhere else and will not recommend you. This kind of job really relies on word of mouth, people's recommending you and saying, hey, you know, that was great. I loved what you did. Oh yeah, this person came to my garden, he was wonderful, and giving you names. So you want, one of the most crucial things there is to be there, be there when you say you're going to be there, of course, and that's why we made appointments and we set up alarms on the calendar and alerts, but also communicate when they ask you questions, and communicate if you can't be there or if you can be there. So communication is key. So that's why we spent all that time in the morning with the communication information. And then we had some great time with some apps, just seeing what's possible out there. Después estuvimos jugando un poco con algunas aplicaciones de jardinería que son un poco más divertidas. And if there's any questions about something we did yesterday that wasn't clear, that you tried to do on your own and you couldn't do it, please write some questions in the chat when we have some free time, or when I'm helping one person, maybe Oscar or Anne can help with that concept in between. I can put you in breakout rooms and things like that. Si hay algo que no entendieron, que necesitan más ayuda, pregunten en el chat. Digan, quiero que repasar esto. Just say in the chat, I'd like to review this or ask something about that. And then when there's some in between time, we can reply to those things. Okay, so just write your questions. Escriban ahí en el chat lo que quieran repasar, y cuando haya un momento lo vamos a repasar. Okay, now today we're gonna, as kind of like yesterday, do some things that are more necessary and some things that are a bit more fun. Try to mix them up. Vamos a mezclar un poco lo necesario y lo divertido. And so one of the main things we're going to do, we're going to continue with the conversation of answering those emails. The fact that we need to create some estimates or quotes or proposals. Many times the words are used, they are slightly different, but some people might ask you for a proposal. Some people might ask you for an estimate or for a quote for, replacing the lawn, the way one of our emails that I sent you, by the way, there's an email, Madison, that I sent yesterday to everyone, and there's 2 emails for this class, which we're working on. So go check them out. Vayan de vuelta al email y leamos de vuelta esos emails. Y uno era de un cliente y uno de tu supervisor. One was from a client and one was from a supervisor, asking you to do different things and establishing a request for some pricing and some proposals and stuff like that. So we're going to focus on that side today, the how do you handle the business side on your phone, beyond just communication. Okay. Vamos a enfocarnos en cómo establecer no me sale en español, estimates, proposals, no me sale en español, cuando te piden precio, ¿cómo se dice?
Un estimado.
Una estimación, hay otra palabra que no me sale, pero bueno, eso, un estimado. De cuánto va a costar plantar tu jardín o cuánto va a plantar. So one of the emails asked for, and I'm trying to bring up the emails again. I had it right here next to me. Hold on. Oh, that's true. We're doing it on the phone. One of the emails asked for gardening for, I got so many emails since yesterday from my teaching that I need to run back for it. The client wanted the supervisor wanted you to plant spring veggies, and that's the garden beds, the 4x8 garden beds that were laid out, and the supervisor wants you to go meet the client and talk with them about their preferences, and then go and figure out what it would cost to plant with such and such veggies. And we used the planter app yesterday to figure out how many veggies. And then you were asked to get back to your supervisor with the time spent and the mileage driven and the money spent on purchasing that the materials, right? So uno de los mensajes nos pide que veamos cuánto, hablemos con el cliente, vamos a comprar el material y pasarle toda esa información a nuestro supervisor. And then the other email is someone saying, hey, you did a great job on my friend. I want you to replace my lawn. And can you come over and give me an estimate? Okay. Y el otro email es de alguien que quiere que le reemplaces el jardín, el pasto, y que le pongas plantas más apropiadas. Estoy buscando acá mi cuenta de los mails de ayer en español. All right. So based on those 2 emails, we're going to start figuring out, did anyone check in on prices, cost implied in the job if we needed all those veggies and we needed soil? And did anyone do any research on that? You have some information to hand out or to use for the estimates? ¿Alguien tuvo tiempo para averiguar un poco precios, costos?
I did.
Thank you, Oscar.
Can I share?
Please,
I just
do
want
so.
to, let's see here. I just went to the Terrasol website, and they had prices for things. So
can you share the process, since this is something students are going to need to do? So
so I didn't go, I just basically went to the website. You can go to, these days, especially with COVID, a lot of people are doing, what do they call shop from home or something like that.
mhm.
So most stores will have all their products online, So like for tomatoes, you could just go there and then that, there's all the different kinds of tomatoes, but like say you want a black tomato, then they'll either, so they'll tell you, there's the 4-inch tomatoes are $3.99, right? So you can get a price
Does
per
it
unit.
say, does it say if they're a pack or a unit or?
These are 4-inch, so they tell you they're
Just
a
one.
single.
Okay.
These are singles. If it's 4-inch, they're usually singles. And so if you go to anything else, like say lettuces or something like that, leafy greens, those are, lettuces. See, so most of the leafy greens, they come in 6-packs. So the price for 6-packs are $3.79 at Terrasol. And it's a
So-
relative thing,
So guys, can you stop for a minute, Oscar, for a minute?
Yes.
Here, so let's assume that you don't have a computer in front of you, right? Because the idea is we're doing this on your phone. So with your phone, you would have to go and check out Terrasol. But you're going to forget, oh, what was the tomato? What, by the time you're checking out the broccoli. So this is the time when you use your notes, right? You can open up your notes app and write lettuce, $3.99 times 6, because these are 6-packs, right? So open up your notes app and start taking notes, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I request that you guys do that with your phones as well, right? Go to the same note that we had yesterday that we were taking notes for client Susan Doe, remember? And then start writing down next to the list of plants that I told you that if you didn't write, I asked you to copy it. And in case you haven't, or those of you who didn't end up doing this, I'm going to put it in here in the chat. So this is, we decided we're going to do just one bed right now. So in the chat, if you look at the chat, here are the items that we're going to need to purchase. And I don't know if there's anything else we're going to need to purchase other than soil. Oscar, you tell me.
No, just soil.
Just soil and all of these plants. So now you can click on this list in your chat, hold your phone down for a little while and press and with your finger, and then a copy pops up. And then you can copy all this list. If you didn't write it yourself, then open. Someone need, okay, I'm muting someone. Then go into your notes apps. Remember, we opened up our notes apps yesterday on the iPhone or on the Androids. Paste this in if you didn't write it in yourself, and then start putting in the prices as Oscar does the research. Okay, so as we're focusing on the phones right now, let's assume that you're doing the research as well, but Oscar will say, okay, lettuce, whatever. So we get to go to our notes app and start writing down next to carrots. Let's, when he finds it out, or next to lettuce. So here there's lettuce, there says 8 lettuce. So we can just write, how much did it say?
$3.79.
So we can write $3.79 per 6-pack. Okay. So I'm going to stop for a second, Oscar's share, then we're going to start it again, but I want to share my phone with you so you can see what I'm talking about as far as the app that we're doing, what I'm doing with the app. So here's my list. Remember, I had you guys open the notes app, which this is the notes app. And if you don't have your notes app, the idea was that you would, let me just bring this down. You can slowly pull down, like with your finger, pull down with your finger, get the search and write notes, both in the app, both iPhones and Androids. You can do that. And then you click on the correct app. So this is the list that we were writing yesterday, right? And so here I'm beginning to put in the prices. Okay. So can you tell us one more price? And then I'll share yours. Just give us one more of these. So one more example, and then I'll share your screen again. It said tomato.
Yeah, tomato.
or a 4-inch tomato
Yeah, so let's
was,
see here. I want to say $3.99.
Okay.
Yeah, $3.99.
$3.99.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so generally speaking, that's the overall price, unless it's an exceptional or a different,
All right.
for some reason, a different price. 4 inches are usually all the same price, and the 6-packs are usually all the same price.
Okay, it's good to know. You're welcome. You can share your screen again, by the way.
Okay. Let's see here.
All right, so start keeping track because you're trying to get ready for the client, right?
So let's see, there was some cool season, some broccoli, right? So the broccoli is in a 6-pack. You only wanted to put 1 or 2, I believe, in the bed. So you're going to end up with more plants than you maybe need, or you can use them for the other beds. But this is the only unit that you can purchase. So it's $3.79. Let me see if if sometimes with carrots, the root crops, they're called root crops, carrots, beets, radishes. They don't sell them in seedlings. That you have to buy the seed packets. So let's see here. There is a section for seeds. I just want to make sure that we are getting all the plants. So herbs, there was basil, right? So basil's so popular that they definitely have it. So here's basil. It's $3.99 in a 4-inch. And I think we wanted maybe 1 or 2 of those. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember what the list said.
We want 4 basil.
Okay, so 4 times $3.99, they're in 4-inch. Sometimes you can buy basil in 6-packs, smaller, but all the herbs usually come in 4-inch. Let's see, there was squash, right? Let's see, leafy green strawberries, peppers, eggplants, tomatoes.
We need carrots, squash, onions, kale, bean,
Oh, onions.
radish, and peppers.
Yeah.
There's peppers.
And those are probably as well. So depending on what kind of pepper they want, if they want a hot pepper or a sweet pepper, they're all $3.99. They're 4-inch.
Is it individual ones? Okay.
Yeah, they're individual.
Okay.
But there's a whole list, just like the tomatoes. So you'll need to know, what do they like? Some people just, don't even bother getting me a hot pepper. I don't want to even be near that. Or
Yeah,
I
that's
love
me.
those, or I just want sweet. And with tomatoes, believe me, people have their opinions. Some people, they know what they want, and they're really into it. So you need to ask them, like, what is your preference? Don't assume. So let's see here: eggplant, peppers, tomatoes, herbs, and they don't have yet.
Onions.
Mr. Carmona,
So yes.
I just have a really random question, but you know how you go to like the dollar store or whatever, and what if you have like a really frugal person who's trying to be a penny pincher? I mean, do you, if you happen to go to the grocery store and you see the little mini plants, is one better than the other? Like, say you're going from Terra del Sol, but I just went to the dollar store and there's a bunch of basil plants. Like,
Well,
I mean,
if
are they better?
if your clients do not care, if they don't mind, just recognize that
They're a different quality. I mean,
well, they're coming from a greenhouse, typically in Texas or Florida. So it's a completely different environment than your garden.
Okay,
And it doesn't mean, I guess all I'm saying is that the plants that are coming from Florida, and it's a completely different environment, there's a good, not a good chance, but there's a chance that they won't, that the environment in your garden, in the garden is going to be different, and it's going to affect the plants.
so
So
you're
you just
pretty
need to
much
be
gonna spend
careful.
the.
What I would do is make
Uh-huh.
sure that, you look at the health of the plants. So like the first place, I'll just have to be honest, the first place I went was Home Depot. And there are a lot of choices there. You can go to the Home Depot garden section and
Yeah,
you'll find a lot of even organic choices. Again, the plants are coming from Florida. And I'm not trying to say don't get those. You're just, and if they
Are
are
you-
penny pinchers, you have to be, that's not a good thing to say. If
frugal.
they're watching their budget,
Frugal.
or just want want something that as inexpensive as possible. So
Yeah.
then that would be the place to go, Osh or Home
But
Depot.
I guess my question is, are you setting yourself up for failure if you're just gonna buy those? They're gonna come home and then you're gonna plant them in the environment, unless you're putting them in humid, a humid area, I guess, really hot and humid area, right? That's
Yeah,
Florida.
those are great questions. And the thing is that it depends. You need to look at the plants to see and be able to tell, are they healthy plants or are they not healthy plants? Because sometimes, the bottom basement stores, they get what's left, right?
Yeah.
And
So
so other than
would you buy them?
me personally,
Yes.
if I went by there and I saw some really amazing looking plants that were unique, and because sometimes that happens,
Yeah.
and I was interested, I wouldn't not do it, but that
Okay.
wouldn't be my first choice. I mean,
Of
really,
course.
I would grow my own from seed, but
Yeah.
because that's kind of, what the thing is, if you go to Terrasol or La Sumida, some of these smaller places, they pride themselves on having really good quality plant stocks. And that's one thing that you can do. Now,
Yeah.
you may have clients that they want you to do quality work and have
Yeah.
good plants. So, these are things you need to run by your client. You need to find out, are they on a budget?
Yeah.
Where do they normally go? Maybe they already have an account at a certain place. Do they does it matter to them? Of course, also you have to recognize that if you plant a bunch of plants and they die, even if it's not your fault, you might get blamed for it. So I'm not trying to get you to be afraid of doing that. I'm just saying, just be observant, right?
Cautious.
Right. I mean, those are great questions. And these are things, this is why, I was telling you guys at the beginning of the course that communication is the key here. Always. You have to be a good communicator. You need to know what your clients want. You need to know what their budget is. You need to know what they're willing to spend. Some clients are really, no, just go to Terrasol. It's the only place I want you to go, or La Semita. I don't want you to go to and I'll pay whatever it is. I just want good plants.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Keep asking questions always.
Thank you.
So I think so. Right now, this is what they have in stock, but I bet you this is what you can find out. I would bet that anything else that's in 4-inch, like if you went to the store, if you went to Terrasol, there's probably more things because they get stuff every week, sometimes twice a week right now, and that they can't possibly always put everything up on the website. But I think at least the unit price, 4-inch, so you can pretty much estimate if they have it what it's going to cost. Now we can go to, there's the other part. There were seeds. So some of the, let's see here. Oops. So. I know they have a lot of seeds and they don't have them listed here. So you would have to get the price for the seed packets. That's the cheapest way to go anyway.
Is there some generic price you can make an assumption about what a seed packet
Yeah, they're
costs?
generally, I would say $3 a pack.
If you go on shop right there, I think I saw the little seed section.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
Oh, there
right.
it is, seeds.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good eyes.
yeah.
I have my glasses on and I don't always see the best. Oh, so we're back here.
Fruits and vegetables.
Huh.
So at the
Anyway,
bottom,
I can vouch for they have a substantial seed.
should we just make an assumption of $3 per seed
Yeah.
pack?
Yeah, and then the last thing is the soil. I kept it simple for the purpose of this exercise, just so you can get some practice using soil. It could be, maybe you're using compost, maybe they want mulch, something like that. You may need a fertilizer. We didn't go that far. I didn't want to get it too complicated. But
Let me just remind everyone, yesterday with the landscape calculator, we figured out that for a 4x8 bed, with 6-inch depth, we would need about, was it 11 bags of soil? It was 22
Yeah.
bags, but the number was double, so about 11 bags from here,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
So,
So you can see, this will tell you how much it is, what the volume is. And they're usually, these bags are usually, I want to say 1.8 cubic feet. Let's see here. It says in the bottom, it says 1 cubic foot. See at the very bottom?
I'm gonna go back to the landscape calculator and see exactly how many cubic feet it said for that amount. So you don't see this, but I'm picking up my phone and going to the landscape calculator. Remember that we did that? Just to remember how many cubic feet it said. So we're gonna need 8 by 4 by 6 inches in depth, and it says 16 cubic feet.
Okay, so this is one bag is 1 cubic feet. So this is going to be a little pricey, but this is some of the top of the line stuff there. I would choose, this is like the real primo stuff. You can add, there's some, maybe a little cheaper bags that would be good for amending your soil. But this is just for the homework. You can just do this, and just, you have to make sure tell them, you don't just say it's $22. They're gonna say, well, that's crazy. I mean, just tell them what it is. This is like the top of the line. It has worm castings in it. It has bat guano. So what I always tell people, this is just a little aside, is that some people think they have to take all the soil out of their garden bed and then replace it with new stuff. And I really just say it's the top 6 inches of with the real good stuff, and leave the rest of it in there, because that's enough. And that'll just really get everything else going. You don't need to replace it all.
Sorry, Mr. Carmona. I'm sorry. Did
No.
you say bat guano?
Yeah.
Bat droppings.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
And
the
that's
best
good
stuff.
for the
Laura, you want to know that is the best stuff you can get. It's very high in nitrogen and phosphorus. It's
What?
the best.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Who knew, right?
Right. And who are the lucky people to
Oh,
To
get the
go-
harvest that?
there have
It's a
Oh,
whole
that's
industry.
That's a sad story. In
I-
Peru, off the coast of Peru, they on the islands there, the Galapagos and some of those other islands, that's where they first found the bat
that's where they're
guano,
harvesting
guano.
it.
Pardon me?
That's where they're harvesting it. That's where it's
That's
coming
one of the
from?
places. That's one of the places where they do.
Wow.
There's
Lucky
some place by
people.
Reno I could dig it up.
Yeah,
Lucky
A cave by
people.
Carson.
yeah, caves. There's caves and other places where bats are amazing. They get a bad rap. Bats are really amazing. and their guano is amazing. So this bag, this bag is like golden. You don't have to do any other amending. You can, when
And
you talk to
that what-
somebody about spending more money for something like this, you just have to explain to them that this is like the best. It's going to give your plants everything they need. They're going to be very, very healthy, and you don't have to amend the garden bed, anymore for the year. You're really good.
So
know.
is that, sorry to interrupt.
Not at all, Laura. Go ahead. Oh, I can't hear you.
Laura, your sound went off even though, Laura, your
Your sound went off, Laura.
Laura.
Oh, I don't know if she can even hear us.
Laura, your sound is off. And it's not that her sound is off. It's just that because something, you need to jiggle something because your sound is actually on. But
Okay,
there,
there.
it's there.
Yes.
Okay, just another question. So if you're making like a little garden bed, like on the jardineras that they have like close up to a fence. So are you taking this mixture, this planting mixture, and you're mixing it in with the dirt that's already there?
Yeah, just into the top layer. You don't have to
The
mix
top
it too
layer.
much. You're just putting it into like say you massage it in or you fold it into the top 10 inches.
Layer of whatever you have. Okay.
Yeah, and the
Is it
surface.
good for also for house plants?
Yeah. You would probably, for houseplants, you would probably want a potting mix
Okay,
that has all of this stuff, but it's all contained for a container.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So this
So-
says for in-ground planting. So this is for a regular garden bed or a raised bed.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no, good questions.
Okay, so let's make an assumption then. I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna share my screen now. I put a list up on, thank you for showing us how to do this research, which you would have to do on your own phone. Let me share my phone for a minute now to see what are we doing to gather this information on our phones to give this to our clients, right? So I've kind of posted a list of what I've been doing in my notes. I've been taking note of the costs that we were finding here. I just wanted to share again, this is the landscape app where I went and I put the 8x4, which was the size of the bed. Remember, we were going to do one. They asked for 3 beds, but we decided to do one for the estimate, plant that one, and then see what other things were going. So we have one bed that's 8x4 size and 6 inches in depth. And that's where I came up with 16 cubic feet right there, which is why at the store I know I need to buy 16 bags. Okay. Entonces este es el landscaping app, es este icono de aquí, ok, que cuando se abre elegimos cuánta tierra vamos a necesitar para una bed, no sé, how do you say a bed of plants?
Cama.
¿Cómo?
Cama.
No, no le decimos cama.
Yeah.
Le decimos cama. Bueno,
Yeah.
Spanglishismo. Un sector, una cama de 8x4 y 6 pulgadas de profundidad que vamos a tener que cubrir de tierra. Entonces calculamos con esto que vamos a necesitar 6 pies cúbicos y cada bolsa tenía un pie de cúbico de material. Okay, so we need 16 of those bags. And then in my notes app, I've been taking notes of the prices that that he was saying, but I'm just going to use your knowledge now. Tell me, what does do onions come in 6 packs, for example,
They can, yeah, especially
or
in the springtime.
individuals? So it's okay
No, they're
if we
not
just
They're usually in 6 packs.
6 packs. Okay,
Yeah.
so then I'm gonna copy this price here by selecting it. So to select something, you tap it, right? And long tap. Okay, like you, not long tap, sorry. Double click tap. And when you double click tap, that gets selected, okay? And when you double click tap, you can then copy, right? And then you'll go up to onions and you'll tap and then tap one more time and paste, okay? So we don't want to be writing the whole thing again. So you want to be efficient with your phone. So how about squash? Is that a 4-inch?
4-inch.
So I'm gonna go down where it says for basil, because that's gonna be the price for a 4-inch, right? And I'm gonna
Yeah.
double tap, just quickly extend it, copy. And then here, I'm gonna make a space, tap again and paste, okay? So this is trying to be efficient with how I'm filling. And so with my finger, you just do a little double tap on something and it selects the whole little bit. Then you copy and then you double tap and you paste. Okay, try that out, you guys, in your apps. How about carrots? Are those seedlings or are those 6-packs or what are?
They're seeds, so it'll be a $3 seed packet.
Okay, so I'm
And
gonna
you-
copy
and
the
there's one-
seed.
There's a lot of seeds in there, so
So I'm gonna paste $3 for seeds. How about the cucumber? How does it come?
4-inch.
Okay, so then that's all stuff that you'd be researching, but we're gonna move forward by using by using Oscar's knowledge. So the 4-inchers are the 3.99s. I'm gonna copy. So you can either do that or what you could do also is, let me just finish with this kale. Is
It's usually 6-pack.
a 6-pack. So copy from a 6-pack. And then beans.
Beans are, they're probably seeds, the $3 seed packet.
Okay. Right, so now I've kind of figured out where I'm gonna need. Now, ideally, once you begin to know about plants, you would have just lined up the ones that are gonna be 3-packs and 6-packs and seeds, right? So that you can get numbers better. But hey, since this is maybe one of the first times with this client that you're doing it, you wouldn't know. So basically down here, I wrote 4-inch packs are $3.99, 6-inch packs, $3.79. Sorry, 4-inch plants are $3.99. These are individual, okay. And then 6-packs would be, so let me just be clear, this is individuals. And then the seeds $3.99. So now all we need to count is how many of these are $3.99ers. So I'm gonna go up and I go squash is $3.99, tomatoes $3.99. I need one of each. I need 4 basils. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 cucumber, 7. And 2 bell peppers, 8, 9. So basically we're gonna need 9 $3.99 plants. Does that make sense? We're just trying to kind of figure out here what we're doing. And then how many 6-packs we said we'd need? 16 onions. So we're gonna have to get.
You know, and onions come in bunches, so you'll probably get 16 onions in a 6-pack. You know, it's not
Oh,
just
okay,
one
so
onion
one
per
6-pack.
6-pack.
Oh, okay, that's good to
Yeah.
know. So we're gonna get 1 6-pack for onions, 2 6-packs of lettuce. So that's 3 6-packs. 1 6-packs of broccoli. That's sorry, I lost track. So that's 1 6-pack there, 2, 3 6-packs, 4 6-packs because we need 3 kale, and 5 6-packs because we need 2 broccoli. So that's basically, we're gonna need 5 6-packs. And then I think we said seeds 3 times. Yeah. Carrots, beans, and radishes. So we're gonna need 3 radishes. Okay, so now we're kind of ready. Once we put those numbers in, we're kind of ready to establish our let me copy all this and put it down there. Our proposal or our costs, or to go and figure out how much we're gonna have to say, especially if you're gonna get the money ahead of time or something, because you're going to the store, they're not coming with you, as Oscar said yesterday. This is gonna be quite a bit of money. And you're gonna go to the store and someone has to pay for it. So it all depends on how your agreement with this person, if they are gonna pay for all the costs, if they're gonna buy the materials, if you're gonna, I'm gonna leave it up to Oscar to explain different ways of working, but you are gonna go to the store and buy these things and take them there. So someone has to put in the money, right? So Oscar, just as a question, because I don't know in your field, in my field of work, I would know the answer. if you're gonna go and buy all of this, do you pass on the exact cost to the client, or do you give an extra cost for you doing it, or do you charge for the hour of having been there doing the job? Like, how do you account for the time that you went and purchased this and went
Yeah.
over there?
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways to go about it. If they have an account there and, or they want to meet you there, then they're just bearing the cost of whatever it is. Usually, when people are going out and buying product, especially if it's a bigger company or a company that has employees, they're usually marking up about 20% or 15% on top of the price. And it's just at the very end, you just add the 10% or 20%, whatever it is, over the total cost. And then, or you're just charging your time to be there and to do all of that. Does that make sense?
So you charge them for an hour of getting, for example, the same hour, say that your rate is $15 an hour, you charge them an extra hour for having spent that time there purchasing the equipment, bringing it in. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and then that just avoids any problems where you can just charge them whatever it is that you paid, and then you charge them for the time that you took to go there and get all of that stuff.
Okay, great.
You definitely want to make sure that if you're doing the work for them, that you're getting paid to do that, either by your time or adding a percentage on top of that. And I think 20% isn't outrageous. People can add 20% on top of the price of their just kind of pass through,
But then, so the question is, do they ever ask for the receipt, for example, and then they'll see you added 20%, or you just in your invoice, you just invoice them for 20% more? Just what's more typical?
It varies. It varies from person to person. I have people that I've worked with and they have accounts all over the place, right? And so they just say, go in there and buy this stuff and just charge it to my account. Then I have people where,
Okay, so I forgot to say that because I remember, yeah, so the client sometimes will create an account with the store. And then you come in and you say, I'm purchasing something for Mr. or Mrs. something, or for such and such company. And then you'll take all the material and you buy all these packs, they charge it to their account. So you don't put out any money. So then you can't do any surcharge on top of that. So then what you do is you charge for your time for going to the
Yeah.
store and buying the stuff and having the expertise to know what to pick and all of that. Does that make sense? And for carrying it in there. So all of that you charge for that time.
yeah. And, sometimes, it's easier for you if you just let them pay for it, because then you don't have to haggle or worry about what they don't want. Sometimes clients actually want to go to the nursery and pick things out themselves and get a sense of that, and then pay with their own credit card or whatever it is directly. I think that initially it's probably, unless it's just, there depends on who you're working with, who your clients are. That might be easier for you just to go and buy it, and then you just charge it to them, and then they pay you for it. And it's the convenience of having you do all of that work and pay for it and all of that you're actually charging for, when you add a 15% or 20% markup on all of that.
Okay. So we're going to make an assumption here that we're charging in this job, that they're going to pay the price. So we don't have to be adding surcharge, but we're going to add
Yeah.
time for being there. Okay. And this assumption here, they're going to be paying for the material at the store or an account or with a credit card. And we're just charging for time because we have to go to, that way, by the way, is spam. You guys be careful. There's so many people saying, oh, you have money at this. I just got a text saying I have money at Amazon. That's all spam. Don't ever answer those things. You guys don't believe them. Anyway, I don't know if you saw something flash on my screen that said that I had stuff coming in. Okay, so we've established an idea of costs. We know that we're going to have to, for plants and for soil. So let's assume what would be reasonable, an hour, or how much time would, or 2 hours, how much would be charged for,
I would say an hour. It shouldn't take you any more than an hour to do that. And, we're not, this isn't LA.
and what would be a typical hourly charge? Guys, this isn't, you arrange this with clients you have, but I'm just throwing out a number per hour, but it's an uninformed guess. So I'm not trying to tell you this is what you need to charge, right? But give me an idea of what might make sense to put here as for an hour of work for this client. And
Well, I
this
would
is-
say, $15 just to start off with. You might be, starting out a little less than that. You might be more. I know people that charge $20 or $25 an hour. So it just depends,
Mhm.
but that's like a good, that's, what do they call that? Working wage or something?
Okay, so 1 hour for shopping, okay? Because you're supposed to tell your supervisor, and then this is 15 times an hour, right? So 1 hour for shopping. How much time did you spend meeting with a client? Did you spend an hour there meeting with a client, for example? Going over everything and what you need and talking and interviewing them. So that's another hour that you need to tell a supervisor you spent. Does that make sense? I'm going to show you a time tracking app where you can keep track of this. 1 hour with client. And I'm not sure, I think that in the job, the idea was to go back and do it, right? And plant it. Was that the request in the email?
Yes.
So what would be a logical amount of time to throw in here as an estimate?
For doing the work, I would
Mhm.
say 3 hours. Because the bed's already together. It's only one 4x8 bed. So,
Okay, so soil,
that's
adding
to,
soil and planting.
yeah, and removing the plants, kind of, doing whatever to remove old plants.
So right now, I mean, you wouldn't normally be writing this portion in this app, but this is because we're trying to keep an idea of all the requests that we had from our employer, writing it down for us to know, but we're going to put it all in the proposal now, in the estimate. And then you usually charge by mileage, okay? And there's a set amount that you put in there, but depends on this client. Like if it's your own client, you would say you would charge mileage, or expense it at the end of the year. You decide what you do. But in this case, Oscar, your supervisor said just time spent driving. So maybe between going and coming, and maybe this client is far away, so maybe you spent another half hour driving or something like that. But you had to go twice. You had to go to the client twice, and then you had to go to the store. So maybe an hour of driving back and forth, right? So maybe you're going to add another hour for driving. Okay. So basically this is all the stuff that you got to tell your supervisor that you spent. Is that anything else someone can think of?
So I would, yeah, I don't know. I would just put if this is being reported back to your supervisor, it wouldn't be, yeah, I guess you could divide it between the driving and the shopping. It's usually just like whatever time it takes for you to leave to go and do this and then go to the job site, it's all your time, to buy the plants, to drive there, to drive to the job site. Sometimes they want to make, especially if they have like a certain way that they're keeping track of mileage and all that, then that's, they might want you to have some sort of accounting for that.
So at this point, is it reasonable what we came up with, that this whole thing might be 6 hours between shopping, the first interview with the client, and then doing the work and driving time?
Yeah.
Is that about right?
Right. You've been to the house now 2 times, one to
Mhm.
interview them and work with them, and the other time to go and do the work. That's not unreasonable.
Okay, so guys, basically you think through all the steps of what you need to do for that client that you would be doing outside of your own life, stuff you did to get this job done, and that's what you're charging for. And so now when we go into the app to do the estimate, you've kind of figured out what you're going to put in there, right? So you've kind of done the work on the side. And by having this not just on a scrap of paper or in your head, then later when you go back to the client saying, oh, well, how much was that? Or this, you have notes on your phone right next to you. And so, oh yeah, looks like I spent 2 hours there. So right now we're guessing this because we're not really going to be able to track our time because we're not doing this in real life.
Una pregunta, una
Oh,
pregunta.
wait, someone has 2 sounds on. And the what, everything is if you have your sound on your phone
Sí,
and on
José,
your
soy
computer,
José Antonio.
I just put, let me tell Jose Antonio
Yes.
to turn.
Sí, ya me escucha.
Sí, pero tiene que apagar el sonido de su teléfono o de su computadora porque hay 2 prendidos y hace.
Entendido.
A ver. A ver si usted habla, le escuchamos por el teléfono o no. A ver. Hable.
I just muted him.
I muted him too, but since he had 2 on, we can hear him through the other one. ¿Tienes
Oh.
sonido en el teléfono?
¿Me escucha?
Sí, ahora bien, podemos hablar, sí.
Oh, sí, una pregunta, profesor,
No
no se
hace,
instala y reacciona las.
no hace falta poner el teléfono cerca, póngalo como estaba, que le oímos bien. Ok.
Ok. No se pone instalación, no se instala sistema de riego ni nada, sea manual.
So the question is, do you need to install irrigation or anything like that? And so I'm just answering in Spanish and then in English. En este pedido de trabajo, en el mail que mandaron, tu supervisor te manda a que hagas esto nada más. Supuestamente este cliente ya tiene toda irrigación, tiene todo instalado. Lo único que tienes que hacer es renovarle las plantas. So in this job request, the job was just from your supervisor to go and replace the beds with new plants. Their irrigation, all of that was there. The beds existed. You're not doing all that. The other job request, they wanted you to get rid of the lawn and replace it all. So that's a different job request. But in this one, it was just a supervisor saying, hey, head over there. And she just wants veggie springs plant, spring veggies in her bed. So you have to clean out the old stuff, revive the soil, so to say, and then put some new plants in. Okay, en este pedido de trabajo es simplemente sacar las plantas viejas, refrescar la tierra y poner plantas nuevas. Okay. So, pero no, está bien preguntar qué otras cosas haya que hacer. O sea, si encontrás algo que está mal, tendrás que preguntarle al cliente y en este caso a tu supervisor si quieren que lo haga. So one more thing, say that you come up with some surprise element in doing this job that's necessary. Then you need to first, don't just do it and then charge for it. You need to check in with the client and with your supervisor and say, oh, I found that the water main is broken and there's no way to water it. So whatever, I'm guessing here. And then you have to check in first. You don't do any job without checking in and getting an agreement that you'll get paid for it and for the expenses, okay? But the estimate we're gonna set up is just for the job request, okay? Anything else to say about that, Oscar, before I?
Yeah,
open up
it's
the
until you know your clients' habits and they get to know you, you need to do things more formally and make sure that you present to them your sort of your plan for what you're going to buy and how much that's going to cost. Because what you don't want to do is buy all this stuff and then they say, no, I didn't want that, or, then you're stuck, right? So that's really important that you, that's why communication is so important, because you need to know what they, what their preferences are before you do anything. and get their okay.
Now, one more thing, these two different jobs are completely different. The first one, someone wants the lawn removal. That one, they're asking you, how much is it going to cost me? So you're going to do something like this and send them and say, it'll take me, for example, 6 hours. That job will probably take much longer, but say that you say 6 hours and this is what it's going to cost. And then within that time, they'll say, sure, do the job or not. And if you then discover that you need 10 more hours because something was not working, then you need to come up with it. This job, the one that we're doing right now, though, is your supervisor who already has an established client relationship with his client. They know him and they just said, hey, plant spring veggies, whatever they charge, the client's going to be charged by your supervisor. Your supervisor trusts you, you've worked for them. They just want you to go and do the job. And so you just need to report to him how long you spent and he'll pass on those costs to the client. So this is different. Does that make sense?
Right.
These are two different choices
Perfect.
here.
Exactly.
Okay. So la diferencia está en que uno de los dos trabajos que nos pidieron es que por adelantado quieren saber cuánto va a costar reemplazar todo el pasto con otras plantas. Eso quieren que usted haga una estimación del trabajo, le mande la información y le diga, bueno, le va a costar tanto y van a decir si haga o no el trabajo. Por adelantado. Si en medio de haciendo ese trabajo descubre una cosa muy grande que le va a tomar 10 horas más porque hay algo roto, hay que presentarle al cliente y decir, bueno, ahora hay que agregar este trabajo. Eso es diferente. Pero este que estamos haciendo ahora es un trabajo donde tu supervisor te manda y ya te confían, ya saben cómo trabajas, ese cliente contrató a tu supervisor y saben que a la persona que manden va a hacer el trabajo y luego el supervisor les va a cobrar. Entonces, usted tiene que comunicarse más bien con el supervisor y no con el cliente para saber qué es lo que está, el tiempo que tardó y luego su supervisor le va a cobrar 6 horas y tanto al cliente. ¿Se entiende? Es diferente. So it depends on what the most important thing here though is always communication. If something seems very different, communicate with your supervisor or with your client. So if you just show up without having said anything and having done a ton more work and you didn't communicate, that's going to be an unhappy client. You drop the car off to be fixed for $200 and when you show up they say $700. You're like, why didn't you call me to tell me that I needed to put $500 more? You don't go back to that mechanic, right? So the same thing with this. Even if you did a good job planting the veggies, they'll go with someone else who communicated. So communication is the most important thing. Okay. All right. Let's put all this information into our app for tracking our costs. Okay. Vamos a poner esta información en un app para marcar los costos. So I asked you yesterday to download some things and I said a little bit earlier, make sure that you had this one, the invoice bookkeeping. Let me put it in here again. App downloaded. We can spend time with you trying to do it or me demonstrating it. And I find that you learn it more if you do it as well than just me demonstrating it. So how many of you downloaded that app already? ¿Cuántos bajaron este programa y lo instalaron? Descargaron. Okay. So
I didn't know which one to download because there was like many of them.
yeah, this one is just called Invoice. And when you look at the brand, it's Bookkeeping. So I'm going to go to the ones and there's tons of things called, it's the one that has this one right there. I don't want to click on it yet, but that little logo. So if you go to your app store or to the Play Store and you type the word invoice, then you'll have this, the logo will tell you which one of the many called invoice, but they're not always called invoice. There's invoice from bookkeeping or invoices or invoice go or to invoice, they have all these similar but different words, right? So I'm going to head over now into the App Store and when you write the word invoice, you go to the search. Invoice. right? If you just say invoice, don't go to invoice, simple invoice, just write the word invoice and do a search. Then there's all these different choices, and there's so many choices and they're hard to know which one. And here we have invoice maker, let's see, what's the full name? Invoice maker and estimate app. So invoice maker and estimate app. And there's many apps that do invoices, but the reason I actually chose this one is because this one, instead of having one for invoice, one for estimating, one for whatever, this does both. So there we go. I'm going to go to the App Store. And invoice maker and estimate app. Okay, so I just put the full name on the list of apps. Sorry, I had to, as soon as I stop. So there we go. Okay, now the thing is, all the apps that we're going to set up today, or more of the apps that we're setting up today, they're a bit more complicated than the ones from yesterday, because these are going to have, you know, finances involved. And you have to establish, you know, create an account. You will be asked, there's tons of these are expensive, and they have all this different extra expenses you find when you can make only 1 or 2 invoices and stuff like that. So I tried to find one that would be, when you see over here, this one that says QuickBooks, under the get, it says in-app purchases right there, like under the, I'm finding a way, there's a way for me to point with a mouse, which is a bit harder to do, but I figured out a way yesterday, because otherwise it was hard to show you. So do you see my mouse now?
Yeah.
Okay, so here in-app purchases, whenever it says that, you'll make the assumption that you'll get some utility out of it, but that for the most part, you'll have to pay quite a bit more in the long run, right? So, so anyway, be careful. But to say the truth, this QuickBooks is one of the best. And personally, in my business, I use QuickBooks. But you first need to have something that's useful, and you start using it and that's free. And then when you discover that you're getting more and more work and stuff like that, then you can go ahead and start buying the kind of thing that's going to need subscriptions. Now, I'm going to talk about Square and other things at the same time. But anyway, hopefully, as I'm speaking, you have had a chance to download it and to start setting up your account. I'm not going to bother going to the Play Store because it's the same idea. You basically have to look until you find the one that has the logo that I'm showing you. And so keep going down until you find the one that has this little logo. Because I also had to make choices of what's in both App Store, in the App Store and in the Play Store, right? So that's why this is the one chosen. But you can, once you know how they work, you can spend some time downloading and trying other ones as well. See one that works better for you. Now, myself, for the financial material, I actually, this is not financial. I actually use this one, the QB, QuickBooks Self-Employed. That's the one that I use for real in my situation. But you do have to pay for it, and you do need to set up your bank account. See, it's more complete. You set up your bank account, your other materials, and it helps you with taxes and a whole bunch of stuff. So with one app, I get to do a lot of my own accounting. Plus I have QuickBooks in my computer. And so it's easier for me because it's all one company and all the material flows. But the idea is, how do you do this just on your phone? And for some just basic things, like a client who says, hey, just send me an idea of how much it's going to cost. So you don't need you're not yet having this whole huge business. All you have is someone saying, tell me how much it's going to cost. And instead of sending an email saying, oh, this is going to cost $300, you can send them a little invoice that shows them a more detailed, it makes you look more professional and it helps understand how to do it. And that's why we're going to be using a phone invoice app. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and open mine. And the brand, when I said Bukipi, it's because that's the company that makes it. So that also helps sometimes find it when you put in invoice Bukipi. And so this is not going to be in the same place that yours is, because if you open yours, it'll be asking you to set up your company name and to set up your email and to create your account and stuff like that. So hopefully, as I've been speaking, you've been doing that. And if not, just watch and ask me questions. And then later you can review this part of the video to figure it out. But if you are, toe to toe with me, then you can actually practice doing it and ask questions. So first of all, once you are done setting up your data, what I did like about this invoice app is that it has some good videos telling you how to figure something out, and they're little 1-minute videos, but tell you, and this one is actually free. This is what I really like. This is truly free, right? And so this is a 1-minute tutorial of how to send an invoice. This is how to create a report with it and how to create a new category, how to get the client to sign an invoice and stuff like that, right? So when you don't know how to use it, this one has good explanations. So of all, I tried like 5 of them for today's class, because I do this on my computer. I don't do this part on the phone. So I had to test some good ones. And this is the best one I found that's actually free. So first of all, when you first start, it doesn't say invoice up here, and we're not setting up an invoice yet. So you need to add these. So when you click on the word invoice, because we're not sending an invoice, we're just sending an estimate or something like that. So you need to say add a category, and then you add, I've already added, invoice comes, and then estimate and quote I added. You can say add a new category and say maybe you're going to be doing a purchase order, right? And you say create. And so now one of the choices became purchase order. So you have to add these. I already added these. You need to add estimate and quote. Now, in this case, for the client who wants the lawn replaced, you would be creating an estimate, right? Because they want to know how much will it cost. But in this case, what you're really doing is telling your supervisor how much time you already spent. So it'd be more appropriate to create an invoice, because he said, go do it and then tell me how much it cost you and how much time you spent, so that they can then pay you. Does that make sense? So that's an invoice. An estimate would be when you're just telling someone, well, this is how much it would cost if you hire me for the job. But an invoice is, I already did the job, and here's how much time I spent and how much my expenses were, so that you can pay me either money back, or in this case, time back, or whatever it might be. Does that make sense? So we're going to go with invoice for this example. So I'm going to start an invoice. So I clicked on the word invoice, right? And then I'm going to go here and press the plus. And so it's going to ask me, build to, add customer, right? And if you already have a customer that you've set up, then that customer comes up. Like, you always have the same customer. You don't need to add it each time, but the first time you might need to. So I'm going to click add customer. So you could either create a new customer, or you can search for a customer you've already. So if you always work for Mr. Garcia, you just click here for Mr. Garcia. So I set up a Jane Doe. So Jane Doe is already there, right? But now we're going to create a new customer, and we're going to go ahead, and this is our supervisor. So let's call it Oscar the Green Gardener is the company, Oscar Green Gardener Company. So we're going to click on name, and we're going to call Oscar Green Gardener. Okay, to be quicker. So that's like the company that we're telling them how much time we already spent. And then their email. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in Oscar's pipeline.
Yeah, O Carmona at Pipeline.
O Carmona at pipeline.sbcc.edu. Okay. Yeah.
So Alejandra's asking a question. I'm not
Mhm.
sure what exactly she's meaning, but this might be relative to what you're related to what you're doing. For the app, what do we write for?
Oh, when
Enter
it,
company for your-
yeah, that's a good point. At the very beginning, it wants to know your company. So you can call yourself Alejandra the gardener, whatever. Like it's who are you? So when you first establish it, I already had mine established, but when you first open the app, it wants to know who you, the company is. So you, the company is maybe your first and last name, or maybe who you, the company is, Beautiful Gardens Forever, or whatever you call yourself, right? So that's that, establishing yourself. But in this case, you're just putting through the hours to your supervisor, right? So maybe it's just, your first and last name. Does that make sense? So here's the client's phone number, which I believe the number we're using is, and I want you guys who are doing this to do this with me, because we are actually trying to have you test and send out a receipt. You'll be able to send one to him and request signatures and stuff like that. So it's 805-708 9927. And then if you're actually a business, you would have a number here that you'd put in there. But since you're just someone reporting some hours to your supervisor, you don't have this number. But as a business, you would have to have numbers, VAT, stuff like that. But we're going to not say that. So this is your customer, right? If this is your customer and you're charging them directly and it's actually a client, you would have to ask them for their numbers as a business, because then the whole thing gets reported for taxes and stuff. So you say save. All right, so here's your billing to Oscar GG. And now all of this is going to be added up. It's up to you to say what you're going to charge. So we're going to add an item. Okay, I had added some items that I had put in here as things that we would do for Jane Doe. So once you add them one time, then they're there, right? So it becomes easier because you don't need to create them each time. Each time you do some planting, you have a bunch of hours. So create new item, and we're going to just have the item as the hour, just maybe your hourly rate is $15. Okay, for 1 hour, quantity 1. And you're not offering any discount, right? So this is basically something that you'll use in the future. This is just your hourly rate. So you say save. And so now in this case, how many hours? Let me go to double click to move to my notes. And we decided we had spent 6 hours. Okay. So I'm going to double click and I'm going to click on that hourly rate and actually say 6 of those hours. Save. And see how already it says hourly 6 hours, that's $90. Okay. So we didn't have to make the calculations. Now, if you want to break it up a little bit more, instead of just saying hourly rate, you might have an hour for planting and for driving, for interviewing the client or stuff like that. But we're just going to leave it as just a general, for this job, it's a general hourly rate. And now you might want to create a new item called 4-inch plants. The price was $3.99, I believe. And how many? And I go back to my notes, and we had 4-inch plants. We had 9 of those. So we type in a 9 and we save that. So there's $35.91 on that. And I'm going to add another item. And what the other item was 6 packs, and we did 5 of them. So I'm going to create a new item for a 6-pack. 3.79. And how much did I say? How many did I say? I double click and I check 5 of them. Okay, 5 of those. Save. So that's adding up. And then we bought seeds. Create a new item. Seeds. Price was $3. And we needed 3 of those. Save. So basically, the first time we set up this, it's going to be hard, right? Because we have to enter each one. But, oh, and then soil. We had one more thing, which was create a new item. And we're going to put in, I'm going to go in and put the name of the soil that I bought, which is the expensive one. So I'm going to say Fox Farm. See, I'll select that original planting mix copy. So I can say Fox Farm original planting mix. And I think it was $21.99. And we bought 16 of those. And this actually isn't taken into account that I think about it tax, because you would have to get reimbursed for the tax. But anyway, right now, this gives us an idea. And we're not charging mileage, because you either charge mileage or time for driving, right? So if it's time for driving, you're already charging with a 15 an hour. If it's mileage, then there's another way to track. You have to write down your computer. So that seems like that's all our expenses, right? The packs, the individual plants, the soil, and the time. So this would be what my email was, right? So if we go back to our email, the email that we got was, oh, this is the proposal. It's the other job. It's the client that needed help with the garden email. So basically your client had asked to help figure out what to plant. So that's the time you spent doing it. The spring veg, oh, she did want a proposal to replant. Okay. But then Oscar says, go do it and charge me for it. So it's fine. So go to there, return with the property, get the seedlings, get me the time for the nursery, time spent with the client, include costs for plants, compost, and seeds. So it looks like we did everything that's needed here. All the request, okay, comes up to 351. The Oscar will have, for the soil, plus all the other things, basically that's $505. When you send this to Oscar, he'll know that the hourly rate is something he needs to pay you back, and the next he either has to reimburse you, or maybe you already put it in his account, but he has a list of how this goes. All right. Now, if you need to write anything in particular here, you might want to add a note, like the client asked for this, and she wanted this good soil, or to explain maybe a particular expense, or maybe you had to replace a hose and you have to say, hey, the hose was broken, I had to buy a hose, or something like that it wasn't part of the original deal. And then if this is a client, like maybe for Oscar, you don't need that because he's your supervisor, but if it's a client, you can, and if it's an estimate, you can put in a signature, and you can ask for a client signature. Okay. And I'm going to show you how that works. So we're going to turn this on. Okay. Now, when I say my signature or client signature, that's because I've already entered a signature in this whole system. So I'm going to show you how to do it. This is really important for when there's when it's an estimate. You don't want to do the job unless you kind of sign it off, at least in my industry. If you don't get it signed off, you're in trouble. I don't know how it works in landscaping, but if you're going to, if they say okay to spending $2,000, you better get their signature, because then that makes them pay you. And then maybe you took photos of the site, right? So you can click on add a photo, and you'd go in and add a photo. But right now we're not going to add a photo to this, and we're just going to save that. So now I can either print it out and give it by hand, or I can send it when I try to save it. And notice that this looks much better than just sending an email saying, oh, you owe me $500, right? Because this is what they're going to get. And it wasn't that much harder. The invoice and all the design that makes you look professional. Because the same list that we made in our notes, we could have just put that in an email and say send. And it's just a list of expenses which will add up to $505. But by sending it this way, you look more professional. You look like a company, you know what I mean? And it's just an app that's going to send something that looks this good. So see how it already has a signature there, OGG. I'll show you in a minute how to set up that signature. And then you're asking for them to sign. Oh, now in this case, it kind of, sorry. I went out. So I'm going to click on view send options. And you create an invoice. Would you like to send it? And I'll say, yeah, view send options. I want to send it. And so in the message, it's going to say the general one is thank you for your business. It's going to go up to Oscar. Okay. And so I'll press send. And, oh, it'll ask me, do you want to send it by WhatsApp or by text or by email? Do you want to attach it as a PDF? What do you want to do? So I'm just going to say that I want to email it. Okay. So I'm going to press email right there and then send it. So my email pops up and it's ready to go. It sent the email from, it's going to go from Pipeline. So it's sending this to Oscar. Thank you for your business. So if anyone has gotten to this point, we're ready to go. We're going to send it. So we're going to press send. And now we're going to ask Oscar to open his pipeline and share with us what he received. So when you see it popping into your pipeline, Oscar, we can share your screen. Okay, but first check your pipeline in because usually things take a little bit of time. While he's checking in to see if it arrives, I can see that now I have my invoice there. Now, let me show you how easy it is. Once you establish these categories, the next time I want to do a new invoice to another customer, I can go here to add item and I already have these in there. So now I can say, okay, hourly rate, this time I spent 16 hours, save. And I want to add the fact that I purchased this soil, but this time for this client, I only bought 5 bags. Save. You see how I mean? Because you've already established that. So maybe for this item, you did some, sorry. So this time you're adding the same customer that you've already set up. I've already written to Jane Doe. And now I want to add the fact that for this person, I did some irrigation work, install irrigation, and I spent 5 hours doing that, save. So see, suddenly this one, look how quickly this one got created. Because the first time I had to write each thing, but once you have the 10 things that you do, right? Then creating the next invoice is so quick. Does that make sense? The first time took a while. Okay, this is what this costs, this is what this costs. But then after a while, you've got all your costs ready to go. And so when you get an email from the second person saying, give me an estimate, you open up, you know your basic costs for things, and you just put in the 10 things you think you'll need to do for this person, and you just send them the estimate. You like that idea?
Yeah.
It takes some setup the first time, and we just went through the setup of what it took, create the item. But then after that, this Jane Doe is about to get this whole thing, and I don't have to spend too much time. It took me a total of going, meeting with her, looking at her lawn, and then putting the numbers in here and saying send. And then she can say yes or no and sign it, and then you start the job. Okay. So
what would you do if there is tax included with that price? Because
yeah, since I don't know this thing by heart, I'm sure it includes taxes. You need to probably turn on the options. It usually will say, where are you? I didn't tell it where I was. And so it knows if it's in California, what the taxes for California or stuff like that. But
okay.
I'd need to go to the settings. So here on the top right, if you go to these 3 little top right things,
Yeah.
Settings, it asks you a lot of information that you put in about your company, including here under signature is where I went. You go to signature and you sign, you give a sample sign, So this is where I was, so if, maybe this is where with your finger, you just kind of give a little signature, whatever, and you say, okay. So then next time you go and say add signature, that's the signature that it's going to have. Okay. And you can add a couple of different signatures. Anyway, so payment instructions, maybe you want to tell the person, you pay me by PayPal or pay me to my bank account or pay me to whatever, right? So you set up a couple of things like that. Customer payment options. There it is, tax. So what's our tax here? Do we know?
Like 8.
Eight, I think it's 7.75 or 8% now. Okay, so it's 8%. So then you say, okay, so now the tax has been included. So anyway, you go in here, and this where I went here to get all to this is you go to these 3 little dots. This is when you're establishing your company, and settings. Okay.
Okay.
Settings. And so here you establish all of the information that you need, terms and conditions, like, currency, if you're charging and what currency you're charging, what language you want this in, copies, passcodes, all the kind of stuff that you want. You have a company logo, you bring in the company logo, etc. Okay. So that the next time you do an invoice, it'll include the tax information and stuff like that. This time it hadn't been set up.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So Oscar, did you get anything yet in your?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this, and why don't you share with us what you got in your email? So remember, he's the client, right? He's the one that we're sending things to, because that's the email we sent. So stop, don't press yet. Go back to your email. Go back to the email, which is 1 tab to the left. So Oscar, or the client, got, hey, thank you for your business, amount due. So there's a very simple, and you could write something else. You can say, hey, it was great working with you. I'd love to see you again. We need to plant another bed. Oh, yes. 1 second. We're a few minutes over the break time. Someone reminded me. So just let's finish this one up, and then we'll take our first break. So you can just have a longer message there that you say, but right now, the very basic default message is thank you for your business. But now the client, or you want to find out exactly where that money went into. So then see that link there? Go ahead and click that link, please, now, Oscar. And this is what comes up. And so you can scroll down, and you have an exact idea of how much time was spent, where it was spent, where it went, how much it came up to. Again, had we added the tax before, it would have tax here. And you would say which, like, the hourly rate wouldn't be taxed, but the materials would be taxed. And then you go up again. Can you scroll up again to the top? And at the top, see how it says export as PDF, so the client can export it, or they can print it if they want to. But if they don't, on the very left, there's a request to sign the document. So can you please click sign the document? And so if the client is in an agreement and whatever, you ask them to sign the document. Can you just sign with your mouse a little bit, which is going to be fake. So there we go. It's, you'll sign, and then you write your name underneath. You click where it says name and write your name. So this is the client now, okay, who is doing this. And then you say submit. And so I will receive information that you've received the invoice, okay? And there we go. So now, after a while, you notice that there was information there about payment that we didn't add, but you just have that information. You've already told the person, this thing would include how to pay to this number, pay to this account, yada, yada, yada. Any questions? I know many of you didn't follow hand by hand, and others did. So some of you did follow. So Alejandra, you were following. How did it work out for you? Did it seem to?
I haven't finished. I got the. Just need to write the last one.
Okay.
The soil.
Oh, look at that, Javier. Cool, Javier. Do you want to send me or Oscar the one that you did? So as you go along practicing, if you have one, even if you have one item in there, just an hourly rate, just send it to us, and then we can open them up and just show you that we received it as a test. Okay. All right. So if there's no other specific questions about this, then we're going to take our first break. So first questions.
So after they sign, it sends it back to you, does it?
Yeah,
Yes.
so if I go, I open, let me share my screen now. And when I open my app, what I am seeing here, when I open my app, I go, oh, look, invoice email for Oscar GG was open. So I know that they opened it. So yay, at least I know that they got it. And had I see over here, I have all these requests to pay and stuff like that that I didn't add to this. So had I had all my setups for how to pay or whatever, I would probably have like I can have, I'll get a message saying the bill was paid. So over here where it says add payments, get paid with credit card, record payment, cancel, right? So you follow through it, and what you need to do. So this is an example where I had added a picture of the stuff that I had bought and stuff like that. So this is this other one. And so the good news is that it will show up as received and paid and stuff like that. We can't do that sample because we don't really want to. Maybe we should have set up a sample where you pay $1 or something, so I can show you that. But or even 50 cents. But maybe I'll do that. I'll set up a sample where I bill myself $1, and then I'll have it here as a sample. But I recommend that you do it with someone in your family or with your own bank account or with your own credit card. Just test it first, clean it up so that you know what seems to be missing or not, and then send it to maybe your sibling, someone who lives in your house, and so that you can see what they receive, your husband, your wife, you know, come back and then just pay 50 cents each time and just test it out until you know that it's good before you actually send it off to a client, right?
What would be the like appropriate reaction to, like, you see that they opened it but they haven't paid yet, and like it's like 2-3 days later? What would be
Well,
the
in
appropriate
okay,
response?
so here's the thing, that when you send an invoice, depending on the job, but you don't depending on your agreement, right? But part of in the settings, partly would be how much time do you expect to pay, because it's possible that you're asking them to pay. Maybe they have a 30 days from receipt of the invoice to pay, or maybe you have pay upon receipt, right? So depending on what you've decided to set up with that client, maybe they have to pay you once a month and you just kind of invoice them once a month. Maybe not. Maybe in my business, when I send an invoice, I have to give them 30 days to pay, right? So I just keep waiting, and then when it gets paid, automatically I go, yay, it got paid, and then it switches to the paid. At least that's how my invoicing app works, and I'm assuming that this one works that way. It just marks it. Actually, I can see here, it says over here, see how it says saved, and I'm now pointing, it says this one was saved, this one was read, and this one was sent, right? So probably once one of these guys paid me, it'll say paid. You see what I mean? It just kind of gives you an update on the status of, this is one that I created the other day just to play around with, and I didn't send it. This one, I know that I sent it and it was read, and this one I just sent, okay? So when it's been paid, it'll say paid. And then when I'm done with this, and it's paid and done, I'll go to archive. I don't have any archived yet, it's empty, but I can go back to see all of the past, and let me just show you the past. You can also go up here to where it says the past jobs I've done with that person, or how many things. So up here at the top, you see these little things that are lines. I click on that and I get reports, and I can see how much I've been billing for the year, how much money I've been making, it all, how much is overdue, what's been paid, nothing's been paid yet, 0, right? How much I've billed for $1,000 right now are out. Nothing, you know, nothing is overdue yet, so probably they still have time to pay. Once it becomes overdue, I know that I need to start sending reminders. And then if I check on paid, well, nothing's been paid yet, but it'll tell me what's been paid. And so here I have, on March 3rd, I have $1,000 out, and in paid, I don't have anything. And then as I get paid, you'll start seeing the money come in here as to how much money you've received that year. Okay.
Okay.
So, and then I can go to other years, you know, by the time you have a lot of expense, you can go to another year and go back. This is a pretty cool little app. It seems to have a lot of options here. I like that. And then you would switch to
The
check in
3D.
your estimates. And I have one estimate here. This one is an estimate that I sent back and forth as a test, and it had been read and it's been signed. Okay. So then once I do the job, I can turn it into an invoice and invoice her. And I didn't make any quotes yet, so there's nothing there under quotes. So there we go.
So, so you
And
would want,
one last thing. If you
Mhm.
download this, by the way, really, I found out from these little videos, which are really short. Everything I just taught you, I just learned through these little videos, and each one is about 1 minute each. So, or 2-minute sheets. They're not long, but they're very succinct and crazy and good. And instead of having to guess how to use this, go in there and ask. Okay. And then here in logo and business settings, it takes you directly to all the settings that you need to do. So over here is where you put terms and conditions, is where you would put no, not that one. You would put how you want to be paid. Where is it? Overdue reminder. You can send them an overdue reminder on the due date or after 3 days or stuff like that. Okay. So then you put that kind of information in here and it's part of your thing. Sorry. Yeah. What was your question?
I
Javier?
was gonna just say that, so first you would want to do an estimate, right? And then after, like, once it gets approved and all that, and then you go to an invoice.
Yeah, and and actually one of these little tutorials over here is how to turn the invoice, how to convert the last one, how to convert your estimate to an invoice. Okay. And it basically says, I think you just need to copy it. Just to give you an example, I'll run the little example because they're so easy and simple. How to convert it as an invoice. And so you press play and right? And it's 15 seconds. Okay,
Oh, wow.
so there you go. Great little tutorial videos and very simple. So I really like this app. I've tried so many of all the ones now someone there is saying Ira Convey's app Invoice to Go. Invoice 2 as a number 2 go. Look in the chat. So again, if you've tried one out that you like, thank you for saying that. So this is experience, someone who's really using it. So check that one out, download it and check it out. Try them out with yourself. Send yourself $1 payment with your own account. Set up Venmo. So I know that we need to go on break, but if you see over here, you have to set up an account with PayPal, with Venmo. I have someone who wants to pay me with something called Cash App, so I downloaded that. So you set up different ways to receive money. You set up an account and you give the client options for how they want to pay you, or if they want to pay you with a check or with cash. It all depends. And then you just have it all set up. And then here I'm going to show you later how to enter receipts and toggle, track your timing and stuff like that. I want to give us a break because by now we're 10 minutes past our break time. So hold your questions, play around with this. We're going to take a 10-minute break. It's 10:50. Let's be back by oh, my computer says 10:50. My phone says 9:40. What time is it? Why is my computer and my phone at a different?
10:50.
Oh my God. Why does my phone, you see it there? My phone says 9:41. This is so weird.
It's probably because you're
It's
sharing.
sharing. That's the moment I started sharing. You're right. There you go. It switched to 10:50. All right. So then it's 10:50. I'll see you at 11. So I'm actually 20 minutes over our break time. I apologize for that. I was looking at my phone. All right. See you at 11. Okay. All right. so we're back. It's time to be back from break. Anyone can hear me out there? Trundle back to the computers. I'm gonna wait for some people to turn on some sound or some videos to make sure that people are back. I have a little bell here. Let me call everyone back. Class is starting, guys.
I'm just curious, I just wanted to know, just before you started, if Galaxy A11, is that somebody's extra phone, or is that somebody who is just, if you put your, if
Yeah,
it's
I
your
see
main,
that. It's probably someone's extra phone, yeah.
okay, because I just want to make
Um,
sure that I'm giving everybody credit for being here. If that's not your, if you can put your name there, or just let me know that that's your extra phone, that would be, or your extra.
It's just, people might not know that that is them. So I'm trying to think.
I think
whoops.
everybody's here. It could be
It's
somebody.
this phone.
Yeah.
It's that, whoever has a phone that is looking at that, that's someone's phone. Can you tell us who that is? Like, all of you grab your phones and move them. And if this moves for us, we'll know that that's yours. That's a ceiling, and there's like some
That's a
kind of a
funny way to-
lamp. You see that?
Yes, it looks like it's underneath the desk looking up.
Yeah, so if someone recognizes that phone, please tell us who you are. But anyway, it's someone's phone. You said for sure you can kind of ignore it as a
Okay.
person. So
I
we
just
say-
don't want to miss some. I think everybody's here except for Kanalu, but that's all right.
So all right. So by the way, I went ahead and took I want to say, it says Vegas, Pablo, but you wanted to be Andres, right? His recommendation, and downloaded the app Invoice to Go. So I'm going to check it out. Because I always like to hear, and if you've used it, that's even better news. I did notice that it says in-app purchases, so it probably is the kind that makes you pay after a while. Where are you? Are you back? Andres? Right. So what's your experience with this
I got.
application, the Invoice to Go?
Invoice to Go. I have used this app Invoice to Go for my another
Mhm,
job,
mhm.
and I found it really easy to use.
Mhm.
But you need to pay. I mean, they give you like a basic version. With the basic version, you can do like 15 invoices for free.
Yeah. So here I'm
Uh,
opening it up and it says try it free for 30 days. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so, and then you log in and you create, and then it limits you. So yeah, like 15 invoices or something. So then the question is to go to their website and find out, well, how much are they going to charge you once you do start creating it? Most of the apps that I found are like this. But if it's good and you establish this, if it's not too expensive,
It's not.
when you're in business, you have to pay for your business. So you have to look for apps that aren't, right now for this class, we're looking for free apps. And if they work for you,
and
fine.
sorry,
But if
and
not,
another good thing about Invoice to Go is that they give you like a personalized, how can I say that in English? Como diseños de invoices.
templates and stuff like that. Yeah. you can-
Templates.
mhm.
Yeah, so that's cool too.
Yeah. So like, once you start paying for stuff, you get higher level choices. And this one, you can just set logos and stuff like that, but you go with what it is. So it's efficient and it works, but it isn't that fancy. Like here, all you can do is put your logo and your company information, but it goes with whatever way it goes. But once you start seeing how good these things work and how much you need them, then you might need to choose some of the actual for pay, and it's an investment. Maybe you need to pay $5 a month, maybe you need to pay $5 a year, and that's a big difference, right? $5 a month adds up, $5 a year. Hey, let's try it out. So maybe you try a few more, and then you read some reviews. When you're really doing your work with this, you end up wanting to pay, you might need to pay $20 for an app, but then it gives you a whole bunch of other stuff, or maybe you have to pay a subscription and they update it all the time. You make choices. All of the plant recognition apps that I tested, the good ones were all subscription based, all of them. And some are 99 cents a month. Hey, $12 a year. If you use it a lot, it's worth it. Some are $5 a month. Okay, so if you don't use it much, $5 a month adds up. Some are $45 a month because they're really professional. Okay, you better be a professional user of these apps then. So you wait until you really are at that level, right? So you choose, there's a bazillion of apps out there. And once you guys begin to have an income, then you can begin to spend some of that income in putting in for apps that are truly going to support you. If they're going to help you make more money, it's worth the investment, right? But don't suddenly put in 5 here, 5 there, 5 there. Next thing you know, you've got like $100 a month in apps that you're not using, right?
Ms.
So
Lustacchio,
what?
this is Laura.
Okay,
Hi, I just have a quick question.
yes.
I understand, that we're wanting to, most of us, to be freelancers and have our own, our own little businesses and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And these apps are really nice. But do you have something to protect us as a small business owner or a freelance, if it's a gardener, a cook or whatever? Is
Mm.
there like an app that we have like small contracts? Because obviously before we start, you want to protect yourself, right?
I,
Something you suggest.
well, I have to say that my experience, I'm a designer. I do freelance design and photography work and video work. So I'm not usually in the kind of situation where I am personally there, like your jobs would be. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So what I have is insurance. Like if I go into someone's house and
Injure yourself.
a lamp falls over and I break their lamp, so I have like just general insurance for that. But I don't know for landscaping, gardening, you're probably talking a different kind of insurance. That's something you would have to get an insurance company. I don't think there's an app you can do that with. That's
Like
understanding how
small
to set up.
contracts, small,
And then
okay, so there's a new
contract,
venture.
yeah, again, contracts, I have done a lot of research because I've created my own, but here's the thing about this class that's complicated is that I've done a lot of that work, but I do my research on the web online and I do my stuff online on a computer. So the idea was to figure out how can you even do this on the phone, right? And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of that would be still researching on your phone in the web to figure out where contracts are that would help you. And so look into contracts for gardeners, find a few, read them thoroughly, see if they seem to apply to your position, to your system. And then you basically set them up as a PDF on your phone. And when you get a client, you email them your contract. But I don't think, if there is an app for that, I don't know that there's an app that generates contracts. What there would be is researching, trying out a whole bunch of them. And then
Business. Would
what's
it
that?
be like a reference, like a small business agreement, contract, what do you look?
Oscar, do you have any idea in your business referencing all of this?
Generally speaking, I don't believe people use it's usually job to job,
Like a
time by
freelancer,
time.
I do hospice care. So normally
Oh.
for me, I don't, have a contract per se, but we do come to a verbal agreement on
Yes.
what and how much and all that stuff. So just, my question is like when you're dealing with the outside, obviously I deal with people, but when you're dealing with the outside and you know, um, is it more necessary or less necessary for there to be an actual contract? Or is the proposal something that's enough?
I think that because now it depends on the level of work that you're providing. If you're putting in patios and doing a lot of extra stuff, then you probably need to get things in writing in a contract form. But for your general garden work, you're not, it's not a
That's
situation
required.
where, you know, you're going to be out a lot of money. It's usually your time, and you have your own equipment, and you can, I mean, it would be probably good to maybe write up a very, just a document that just says what you're going to offer and how much you charge.
So
And you
similar
could
to the
have them sign
proposal.
it and you sign it. I think that would serve in the court of
court.
law, that would serve as a contract.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be complicated. It's not complicated generally, because you're just, mostly it's you using your time, and you're
Yeah.
bringing your own resources in. And then you might, you know, you might be buying some things, but that's usually a separate deal where they're either going to pay for it. Maybe that's what you do. Maybe you say, I'm not gonna, you know, if there's ever, you know, if we come to a situation where you need materials, I'm gonna request that you go buy those, or you pre-buy them and I can go pick them up and bring them. You know, you can make that kind of arrangement where it's not actually money coming out of your pocket until
Yeah.
you know them.
Okay.
That's what I would do. Now, Deanna brought up a good point. You know, ideally it would be good if you had insurance just to cover in case there were something that happened or some kind of
Damage.
accident.
Yeah.
So, and as a matter of fact, some places, and depending on the job, you're required to have $1 million rider. And it doesn't mean you put $1 million down. It's whatever it is a year, maybe $100 a year, but you get $1 million in potential coverage. So luckily in our field and the work we're doing, I guess luckily, there's not a lot of complicated parts to it.
Okay.
And pretty much people are on a day by day kind of arrangement.
Basis. Okay.
You know, even if they know you're coming once or twice a week or month, you know, it's still kind of week by week or whatever. You know,
Okay.
they could say, I don't want to do, I can't afford you anymore. So there's no obligation for them to keep you beyond, you know, next week if they don't have the money,
And that's
you know,
my
so.
thing too, like, you know, you're left sort of high and dry. So would you make what is it called? Like, you know, an agreement if you're, you know, this project, like the proposal that Ms. Musaki was saying, you know, the proposal goes for, you know, 2 days, 3 days, whatever, a week, you know, based on what I see or what you need. And then if you were to say, okay, you know, if I'm left with, you know, if there's any changes in this agreement, then you know, I need to be paid in, you know, for my work. What is it called? Uh, not like grievance. Is it like a grievance
The-
pay or whatever? Like this is a week worth or a month worth of work. And if you were to cancel me, I still need to get paid, whatever, you know what I mean? Or
You
am
know,
I
it
just
is,
too deep into it? Just, I'm a nervous Nelly, so I'm just like, you know, how do I CYA, you know?
yeah, it's usually, I mean, if you're putting out money and paying for something, that's a little different. You probably want to make sure that you're a little bit more formally arranged in that way. For your time, unfortunately, I mean, hopefully, you know, you're dealing with good people, hopefully.
Yeah,
And a lot of times, what really another good thing that happens in our field is that you like for the second the scenario where the neighbor recommended you because you did good work. That's usually the way you get work.
yeah.
So you have a good relationship with somebody, and their friend, you know, they
Like
asks.
what they did, yeah.
So you usually have going in some kind of connection to them. They know what you're about. They know how much you charge, and they want you.
So
That
they
way,
referral
you,
based.
yeah, and it's usually case by case. Now,
Okay.
I would say, because if in your situation, especially, or anybody else who's concerned about putting out money, that's really the point where you know, would have concern. If you're using your credit card to charge, you know, to pay for money, to pay for stuff, and then you're expecting to get reimbursed, you know, maybe you want to avoid that and just say, look, I don't do any of that. That's not part of my service. If you
Yeah.
want these materials, you need to go and pay for them, or meet me at the nursery and pay for them, and then I'll bring them back. And a lot of times people will prefer that because then they know exactly what they got. They get to, you know, pay, they're just paying for what they got. And then there's no question, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's what you do. You just avoid having to put out any money for product unless you're really, really familiar with those people. You know, that some clients keep their gardeners like they keep other
Yeah.
people for a long time, and you
Yeah.
get to have a
Very loyal.
relationship with them, and then you feel really comfortable. But
So-
that's what I would suggest, is
Can I-
just don't go.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to add that it really depends on the business, what kind of things you need to set up, and Oscar's given you the basically the idea that a lot of it is word of mouth or, you know, agreements that are verbal. It's just like he's saying, money is where it comes into place. On the example where you're being asked to go and put out $500, you wouldn't do that unless it's someone you've already done a lot of work with, or you just say, in order to purchase, you need to set up an account with a store, period. And
Yeah.
they have to do that before you go and get the material, so that at least you're just out your time, but
Right.
not your money. So if you don't know this client, you're not going to go and buy $80 worth of materials or $200 worth of materials. You just wouldn't ever do that to start
Right.
with until
Yeah.
you've established a relationship, right? So that's more of an honor kind of thing. In my case, in my business, I have to put in a ton of time. And the typical thing that happens for me is changes. So I don't know if this is something that I'll design something and I'll have to establish from the beginning that you have a chance to do changes twice. Once you sign off, you got one more round of changes. And after that, if you want more changes, you have to pay for the extra time, right? So that's how you protect yourself from having to do 25 changes for 25 more hours that are unpaid, right? So they have to, you have to submit it, they sign off. And if they want changes, they sign off. And when the last one, that's it. So in that sense, I'm assuming that there's some kind of thing where you're, in your case, you're sitting there, you're planting the tree. And if they saw it and that's where they wanted it, that's fine. But if they never saw it, they come back and you planted it 20 feet away from when they wanted it, well, you know, so at
Yeah.
some point, you have to take on and replant it, or they hire you again, or you go, oh, whatever I've done, you get someone else to plant it and you don't have this client again. Because sometimes some clients are not worth it. They're just not worth it with how much they ask you to do for free, and you just kind of cut your losses. And other times this is someone that you want forever and you'll do an extra hour for free because you got it wrong. But other than that, you don't have that much more to lose other than your time. The question is when you put in money, and that's what you want to protect. Right?
Okay.
But you
so
wouldn't put in for free a week of work, you know?
Of course.
You
Yeah.
would put only for free an hour or two to fix something that's wrong, maybe here and there, but not much more than that, right?
Thank you for answering my question.
No, that's very good. Those are great questions.
Really good questions. And as I said, I do have contracts that I have to give a client ahead of time, because but the contract, it's a simple one. It's basically explain this relationship where you're going to get this 2 chances to do this, and then and then you have established something. Because if you don't say it outright ahead of time, then later when you tell them, oh, you only had 2 chances, two changes, they go, well, you never told me that, right? And
Yeah.
and you don't just say, in my business, you don't just say, oh, I like it. You sign that you like it. And that's why I made a point of telling you the signing, at least in my business, because if they say you like it and then you return it, now I want it blue instead of pink, well, that you're done. You already gave me your changes. So, but if they've signed it, then you can, if it goes to a court of law, which it doesn't, but you're protected because you've asked them to sign. That's why it doesn't go, right?
Yes.
That they can't ask you for 25 more changes without paying. It's very simple. Sure, I'll do the changes you want, but now I'm starting to charge you my hourly rate. And then we're going to be careful at how many more changes they ask you, right? So you just need to
Yeah.
protect yourself in that sense. Establish the rules ahead of time. And if they put money down, if they want money, they put it down. And if not, they just talk about that. And that usually is all. But
And that's good business too, because you're being a good communicator. Again, we're talking about communication from the very beginning. You're just telling them everything from the beginning. So there's no surprises or anything. And I think everybody appreciates that. Everybody does, because they want to know what the game is, you know, what's going on, what am I supposed to expect from you or whatever. And then you
Being
tell
clear.
them, and, right.
Clarity.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. And then hopefully you know, like I said, you know, I know just about everybody I know, I know people that advertise to the broader public, but mostly people I know in this field do it by word of mouth. So they're getting references for people that already are familiar with them, or, you know, good friends that are familiar with you. So, you know, they kind of know what they're getting into, and that they want your services, you know,
Yeah.
because they don't want an unknown commodity. And then, you know, hopefully you got multiple people that you're working with. So if something, you know, God forbid, it falls through in that way, you got other jobs going too. So it's not just like
Left
the end
high
of
and
the,
dry. Yeah.
yeah, you're not left high and dry. And then you also have to let them know too, you know, it's like, I expect payment twice a month, or I want payment, you know, once a month. A lot of, you know, that's the most bottom line reasonable is once a month, you know, 30 days. But in the gardening world, sometimes people get paid twice a month, you know, every other week. Sometimes people get paid by the job, just, you know, every week. Some people prefer to pay that. Some people don't want to write a check every time. They'll just say,
Yeah.
you know, I just want to pay you once a month. So just whatever it is. So you just have to establish that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
and in this case, the things that I just showed you, I don't know how many times you'll be invoicing someone, or you get to the point where they know that, hey, you just come in for 2 hours once a week, and they know that they need to pay you that much at the end of the day or at the end of the month, right? And you just establish a payment once a month, pay me, you know, for 6 hours, and I'll come in and do them. That's different than someone who in one of the requests here said, hey, I want you to tell me how much it'll cost to change my whole lawn into plants. What are you going to plant? So then you have to do this whole money thing ahead of time to make sure that everyone agrees. So that's a bigger job. And that's where you really do want people to sign off on the choices. And if you're going to buy huge planters for them or put in pavers or things like that. So that's a whole nother level of conversation. But even there, if all you do is make sure that people sign off on the expenses, then you're covered, right? So that's the most important thing. But there's no app for this kind of thing. There's more like research, have something that you know that you print out and you hand them when you meet them, when you agree that you're going to do the job, you ask them to sign off on that. You print out this thing, they sign off, and then you know that you can go ahead and start the job. That usually protects you if you need out there, because people know that when they've signed, it means something.
I noticed you put the Adobe Scan in there and the Swift Scan.
Yeah.
So that's a way that if you're generating a paper invoice, you
Mhm.
can take a picture of it and convert it to a PDF document.
Yeah,
That
so
actually,
that's what's perfect. That's what's coming next. So yeah, not all of you are going to want to be using these apps, or sometimes they might give you something that they've written. Like they say, they leave, hey, Laura, can you please get me 2 orange trees that I'll pay you later, right? Or something like that. And they left you a note when you arrived because they're at work, and you go, okay, so you know this client, you've assumed that that's so. So then you can just scan that request and email it back to them and go, hey, I got your request. Sure, that's good. So as long as there's a paper trail, many times that like helps. So right now I put in some apps there that I had already put in the original list, but I'm not sure if you've done there. There's many scanning apps. I use Adobe Scan because I use all of the Adobe products, because that's my expertise of programs like, you know, Photoshop, Illustrator, that's what I do and I teach, and that's my business. But I also have something called Swift Scan in my phone that I used a few times. So I'm going to demo that a little bit now. So what this means is you take a photograph of something that you didn't create on a computer, right? So Oscar, I've just shown you how to create an invoice on a computer, but what if you just write, you know, you tell someone on a piece of paper that you'll buy these 4 things, and that you'll charge them for them later, or that you make some kind of agreement. So then you can scan that app, which is basically a fancy name for photograph, because you're basically taking a photograph with your phone. The difference between a photograph and a scan is, for example, with Adobe Scan, you can actually ask your phone to turn that text into text that you can then write, which in a photograph you can't. A photograph of a piece of paper that's written is just a photograph. But with something like Adobe Scan, you can ask that scanner to turn the text into text that you can then maybe correct or change. So I have here an example. So I'm going to share my screen now. And then you can send that, of course, scan. as an email or even just store it on your phone. Because the whole point is we're trying to stay as far as possible to stay paperless, right? Paper free and keep things on a system that's electronic and accessible anywhere. Because you don't have, especially in your field, you don't have an office you go to back all the time. You are just you are the worker, you are the person who goes and does your job, and things have to be with you, right? Here I have a place where I have productivity apps, and this is that Swift scan that I was talking to you about, which is a free app right there, right? And you can scan QR codes and barcodes as well, not just documents. I'm going to open Adobe Scan just because it's the one that I normally use, and I have it here. So I also have Adobe Scan and Adobe Sign and Acrobat. Acrobat here, this is the let me remind. Keep trying to remind myself to put this little pointer up that helps, so that there we go, because my finger doesn't show up, but this pointer shows up a little bit. I have to do this mirror kind of thing, but it works. So this Acrobat is the Acrobat Reader, which is basically, if you install the Acrobat Reader, which is free, so I'm gonna the Adobe Acrobat Reader. There we go. I just put it in the text. If you install it in your phone, then someone was saying the other day that they couldn't read PDFs. Then after we installed the account correctly, you said after that yes, I think it was Javier, that yes, you can read PDFs. Who was it yesterday? Was it Javier? But anyway, if you were to install the Adobe Acrobat Reader, which is a free app, then any PDF that comes in your way, the Acrobat Reader can handle it. It's the company that made PDF become the thing that everyone uses in the world was Adobe Acrobat. So this is the original and the best reader. Let me backtrack and tell you what is a PDF, just to make sure that everyone knows a PDF. And let me just write that there. Un documento PDF es lo que estamos hablando de cómo construir un documento PDF. So why is a PDF so important? Imagine that in person, you want to give me a flyer. Let me see if I have here. So someone wants to send me, I had a flyer here, sample, and I don't have it with me right next to me right now. I had put it right here. How I cleaned up. Okay, so here's this is not what I wanted to show you, but here's an example. So the other day I got my first vaccine, right? for COVID, because I'm a teacher, and we got some vaccines the other day. So when I left, they gave me this where I can find some place to. There we go. So they gave me a piece of paper with information of how to take care of if I get sick, who to call, what to do, right? So this is a piece of paper. I don't know why it's not, there we go. It keeps wanting to focus on me and not on the paper, but anyway. This is a flyer in the sense that somebody created it, somebody made it, and then they want to send it to thousands of places in the country, and they don't want it to be a document that someone can change, right? So if you make this in a place that someone can, like, and you use an application where you can go in and change the date or change the information, that's not a PDF. If you hand this flyer to someone, they can cross it out with a marker now, with a pencil, they can highlight it, but they can't change the data that's right there, right? And that's in real life. If you give me this and I want to change something, I have to use a pen. I used to cross it out. But the original document stays what it is, because I can't change that original document. I can just write on it. So a PDF is an electronic version of a flyer where what you get can't be changed. At most, you can mark it and highlight it, but you can't change it, right? So it's really good for things like contracts or agreements, because when you send that, people can't change it. So it's like you take a photograph of something and send it. But when you put it in PDF format, it becomes, you can also have them sign it and things like that. So if you look at my Acrobat here, I can also have them become a formal document. I can have it be signed, and someone showed me the fillable PDF to register for classes and stuff like that. So that you can make them do a little bit more formal things like that. So anyway, any PDF you receive, you can open through the Acrobat Reader, if nothing else. I use Adobe Sign to get people to sign my things when I'm doing something that I need signed. And then I'm going to open Adobe Scan. Now, when you open up an app that's for Adobe, you need to create a free Adobe account, like everything. So you just set up your email, like all these apps, right? But mine's already set up. So when you open up this app, it starts looking for something to photograph. So I have an article here that I'm going to photograph. And maybe I only want to create an article out of this, and see these little blue lines are trying to find it. Or I want to do so I'm going to try to photograph this and see how the blue lines find the edges of a document. It can tell that the rest is desk and table. The moment it found it, it snapped a picture. It did it for me, and it's asking me to hold it steady. And there it is. See how it found out of all my desk, it was able to do that. I didn't do anything. I just pointed until the phone said, oh, there it is. And it snapped a picture. Okay. Now I can grab with my finger and grab one corner and tell it, and I'm using my fingers, grabbing these little corners to tell it that what I really want is that. And so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there and say, that's what I want as my scan. Okay. So I'm going to straighten it out a little bit better. Now notice that I wasn't holding my camera right on top of it, so it's kind of skewed. So I might go, I don't like that. I'm going to retake it. So I'm going to go down here to where it says retake, and I'm going to try again. And this time I'm going to try to hold my phone right on top of it so that the lines are a little bit straighter. And then once I'm kind of there, the phone just snapped it. And there, so now that one might work a little bit better. So you take a few until you kind of find the one that seems to look the best, right? Maybe I don't want that part that says advertisement. Maybe I don't want this part that has whatever it has down there. So I'm kind of trying to.
And what app is this?
This is the Adobe Scan, but they all work the same or similarly. And so now I'm ready to save it. I like what I got. I think I did a good job. And so I click on continue. Okay, so it processes it and it's trying to look for another one. Now, this is just a document. If I know that I can go down here, see, and tell it if I have a form or I have a business card, then it'll know. So for example, let me see if I have a sample business card down here. So here I have a business card.
When we're Miss Musacchio,
Yes.
when we're logging into this app, and it's, mind you, I'm not very techie,
Mhm.
and it says signing in with Google or Facebook or Apple. What are we?
Yeah, Laura, that's great. Yesterday, I probably mentioned this before you were able to connect. Whenever you get those choices, thank you for asking again. Sign in with Google or with Facebook or all those things. Ignore them all. Do not ever sign in through social media or any of that stuff. You
Okay.
should always sign in using your email. So every time you sign up to any of these apps, they ask you those questions. They want to connect to that. As soon as you connect through Google, through Facebook, through any of those things, then they get access to all your friends, to different information that you do. They begin, it's this much less private, okay? They begin to be able to make relationships to all of you, and you want to keep yourself out in the world, but as private as possible. So go and sign in for your email. And yesterday I made a point for certain things, you want to make sure you have an extra email, the email that you use for work, the one that's personal. And I want to say, I don't have time to teach you everything about email because I teach email classes where you also want to make sure you have an extra email that's, I call my junk email. Remember yesterday I showed you my Yahoo account that I said that's my junk email. I kind of said that and then I didn't explain. I have an email that's an active live email that I use for when I want to give it to people who want my email, but I don't really want to hear from them again. And so I use my junk email, but it's a real live email, right? And that prevents me a lot of junk coming into my regular email. So they don't let you in until you give them your email. Sure, give them your bad email. Later, if you really like that, you go ahead and give them your correct email, right? You can always change the email, but you have to have an email. So I actually have 4 emails. One of them is my junk email, one is my teaching email, one is my business email, one is my personal email. So that's how many emails I handle on a regular basis, right? So that way you keep your stuff separate. So that's a great question, Lara, and thank you for help reminding me to talk about that. So notice that if I scan, in this case, a business card, it's all the information will become more than just a photograph. It'll become information that I can just put straight into my contacts because it's going to pick up the letters of a business card, right? So anyway, right now we're going to go ahead and check on this document. So wait, I just did that really quickly, but I clicked on the bottom on the photograph, and this is the page that I scanned right now. Okay. So now notice that down here, it doesn't look too good. See how the light had there was a little shine because I have a little light shining on it. And so it wasn't able to pick that up really well. So I might want to fix that, do it again. Let's assume that I do have that, I can go ahead and resize it. I can change it. I can add another page. I can do so many things to this. Or in this case, I can change the color and first see if maybe by working on color, I can fix it a little bit. So let me see if I go to grayscale, see if that helps. All of the versions here, no matter what I do, still seem to me that I'm missing some stuff there. So instead of saving it up there, save PDF, I don't like it, I'm going to cancel. I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to go up to the top and hit cancel. Do you want to discard the scan? Yeah, I don't like it. I'm going to try it again. Okay. So now I'm going to try and scan again. So as you can see, then you can go back and find all the scans that you've done in the past. So these are other scans I've done in the past. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and you can use the camera here to start a new scan. Clicked on the camera. And so now I'm going to move the light, change things until hopefully this is very shiny paper. So it's not going to be very easy to get a much better choice. But let me see if this one got better. Now I have a bright spot in this one as well. I'm going to show you guys later, but the best thing is to have, I'm moving this around. The best thing is to not have, this is shiny paper. So the best thing is to have, see how this paper, this is going to be hard to scan. I'm going to have to find a place where I don't have artificial light. But anyway, say that I like it. I say continue. And then I go down here and I click on it. And down there, I find that this time I didn't correct the edges, but say that I like it. Then I say save PDF. I can change, either leave the date or I can change the name and say article or whatever it is about change. And I'll say, okay. And then I better not get a typo there. Article about change. I say, okay. And then I'm going to go save PDF. Right? So we're going to assume that I fixed it and it looks good. And so there it shows up. It's ready to be picked up, to be shared, to be sent. Now it's recognizing text. See the part that it's doing? It's trying to turn that into text. Now you don't have to have them all be turned into text. Many times you can deal with it not being into text, but now it's working as text. So if I were to open it in a document that like Word or Google Docs, I could edit that. Now I'm ready to send it to someone. I'll hit share. And I can share a link to it, or I can send an email. And I can send an email, for example, to my client, right? So in this case, it would be Oscar. So here we go. And I'm going to send him this PDF. And that way, now he has a document that I was able to pick up. Anyway, you can also turn photos that you've already taken into your the photos that you've taken and make them as scans. We're talking about photographs later when we get back from lunch, but I wanted to show you another thing that is a bit of a scanner, but that's called Receipts. And I put that, it's just the app name is Receipts, and the company is Wave, I believe, Wave Receipts. And it's this one here. And it's a scanner, but it's specifically made for understanding the elements that are in a receipt. And so I couldn't find a receipt yesterday, but I found this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, my camera. Okay. And I'm going to point it towards a receipt. And I have to make sure not to do like that or that. You need to try to see these lines that are there, fill it as best as I can. And once I think I've got it pretty straight, then I'm going to press that guy, and I've taken my photograph of it. But it's not just a photograph. See that? And I click on that. I look at it, and if it seems to be that it's working, now I'm going to say, okay, it seems to be working. And I'm going to press that little check mark. And it's going to go into processing. Okay. And basically it's going to say processing for quite a while, processing, processing, processing. And when it's done, hopefully it'll be able to take all that information and show it to you as text as a receipt. So I'm going to go to one that I've done in the past where it was a very bad receipt that I could find the other day, but I was able to scan this receipt. Even as you can see how crunched and weird it is, it was able to scan it and figure out that the merchant was Santa Barbara Sailfish, March 14th for $11.91. See that? And all I did was take a picture of this very crunched up receipt, right? So if you have to track expenses, this one, it takes a while to process. Okay. So last time I did this, it took quite a while. Right now it still says and categorized. And so I'm going to wait for it. But once it's done processing, it's going to come up with whatever it was able to find from there. And that helps you store a lot of the times when you're doing these kind of jobs at the end of the year, it's up to you to pay taxes or not. Any expenses that you had that weren't reimbursed by the customer, then you get to expense in your taxes. And so you want to keep track of them. And, you know, pieces of receipts get, as we saw, scrunched, right, and gone, and then you lose them. But if you make a point of saving them for the day, the week, the month, then you just scan them in, and then you can toss them all. And that's how you save your receipts. Okay. So this is one example. I'm going to wait it out. And when it's ready, I'm going to move on to another app, but later when I'm done, I'll keep checking it when it's ready.
Deanna, I had a question. So if you were like, say you weren't ready to scan it, you just take a picture of it and you have it in your picture gallery, and then you can scan, then you can transfer it over.
Actually, it's not the same. I'm going to take a photograph of it right now, which is what you asked me. So this is my camera. I'm going to take a picture of it, right? Now, this is just a photograph. So forever, this will live as a photograph. Means I need to open it up, zoom in, read the numbers, open up my computer, type it into something, you know, have numbers set up that way. Now, one thing the Adobe Scan does do, and let me go back to the scanner. Where was the scanner? The Adobe Scan that I just showed you allows me, see down here at the, let me go over here to the left. Every time you see this, I'm going to move it to something that's not scannable so it stops. See, whenever you see a little photograph, that means go into your photos. So I'm going to click on that little guy right there, and it's going to say allow access to photos. So I'm going to allow access to my photos. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this photo that I just took, which is this last one, right? And so I'll click on the little plus sign, select a photo to scan. Okay, so let's select that one. And I'm going to press the OK. So it's going to import that image. And now my Adobe scanner is going to look at this and turn it into a PDF. Now, when I turn it into a PDF, maybe I want to crop it because I have all, no, it figured it out. I don't need to crop it. So then when I say save PDF, once again, it's going to read it as text and hopefully be able to turn it into text as well. So that would be another way. But this would just turn into text. That's all it would be. Versus if I go to this little guy that we were just using. Let's see if it finished. It's still processing. It took a long time last time too. So by the time I came back half an hour later, it had worked. And maybe it's because it couldn't find it, but it's still processing it. So I'm going to wait it out. Maybe there's one that doesn't take so long. I mean, in the end, it did read it really well, but it took a while. And I had used this one when the first app that I was going to show you is this one that says invoicing. I was going to show you this one because it was a very simple invoice app. And the thing is, they're from the same company. So when you use this invoice app, you could import the receipts from this same company. See that? And then I decided to show you this other app because I liked it better and because it was free and because it also did estimates and quotes, which is this only did invoicing. But sometimes you need to look at that. Apps that work together, like from the same company. So receipts that you scan in here, you can then import into these invoices. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of go with the Adobe set where I just work, and I have a ton more Adobe apps in my computer for other work that I do. So Adobe, look at all the apps that I use for Adobe for my work. So I have a whole system set up with Adobe. So that's kind of what you want to do. Find something that works with you and go with their system, because then, for example, for my finances, I use QuickBooks. And so I use the QuickBooks for my phone, the QuickBooks for my computer, QuickBooks this, QuickBooks that, and it kind of helps me live in the world of one company and things are importable from their own apps. Does that make sense, you guys? But I pay for QuickBooks because it makes sense for me, because it's an app that costs a bunch of money. As an app for my computer, it's actually really expensive, but it's a business expense that I paid in once. And now I use all of the system, Adobe as well. The apps that I use are very expensive apps, my computer ones, okay? But that's where I do all my designing. That's all my work. That's what I do as a profession. So it's worth it for me to pay for it. But because of that, I get all these other Adobe apps. Now the Adobe Scan is free, so you can still get it for free, but not the other, all these other little ones that I was showing you here. They're not necessarily for free unless you're part of the Adobe world. In your case, you'll be finding apps for gardening that are worth paying for as much as Adobe is worth for me paying. Okay. So anyway, I'm looking at the real time now, not my phone time. For some reason, every time I share, it keeps saying 9:41 in the share, like that time was chosen.
Yeah.
It's so weird. I want to say 9:41 again. It's 11:47. So I have a few more things I want to show you before we go to lunch.
So Deanna, just quickly, just to be clear, then you weren't recommending that you use your phone to, I mean, your camera on your phone to take a picture of the receipt necessarily. Just go right into the Adobe.
I mean, it's
receipts.
it's better than nothing actually to do that, but then you still have to turn that into a PDF if you want to save it as a file. So
And it doesn't end up the same as if you just go right into the Adobe PDF and take a picture of it directly.
yeah, because a photograph is just a photograph, which means that you need to open the photograph and then you need to deal with that. You need to look at it and read it again. It's definitely better than nothing, but it doesn't save as a file that becomes text or anything like that. So I can open up a scan where this is text and then just get all the totals and import them into Excel or something like that to get my expenses. Versus a photograph, I would have to read it. I would have to open up my computer and say, okay, this was 1750 minus 1950, enter the, I would have to process it. Versus a scanner that processes receipts already has processed that information for you. And then you import that into Excel or other things. There's just so many more apps that we get to use to help us out. But versus this would be as the same as if you picked it up with your hand and typed it in, only better to take a photograph because then you can throw away it and keep it. But then you have to make a folder with all your receipts and stuff like that to make sure they're not lost amongst all the photographs that you're taking that day. So I would recommend photographing it as second choice or third choice. Second choice would be just a regular scan. First choice would be to find an app that does a scan that turns that receipt into something you can import into your Excel or whatever else you use to keep track of your budgeting and things like that. Which for that, what I do is I use QuickBooks. QuickBooks is what I use right there to enter all of my expenses and my stuff as I go along the day. But I don't want to open it right now to show you QuickBooks because that has my actual information, all my financial data. So I'm not going to record that to put it out on YouTube. Okay, but I venture that you can download QuickBooks as a trial and check it out and see if you can run your whole business from something like QuickBooks and see if it's worth paying it. Once you start having a business that you have clients and money, it's worth the expense, but you don't want to do that when you're still trying to find those clients and those jobs. And maybe your job will be one where you just need to know how long you worked and they pay you for the hour. So you might not need something like QuickBooks yet. Okay. All right. So I have a couple more things I want to show you before we take our lunch break, which hold on. I scrolled out of this. Here we go, which is the time trackers. And do I have the timesheet here? So before I go into the time trackers, one last thing, because I saw that when I showed here, I have this app called Square. If you begin to have clients, so my husband makes pottery and sells pottery at the beach show on Sundays, right? So we used to take cash, or some people would drop off checks, but a lot of people wanted to pay by credit card. Have you ever gone to, so I'm thinking that if a client of yours, many people don't do cash or check anymore, or especially if what you need is $500 to reimburse you for expenses. No one has $500 cash. So you might want to be able to take credit cards. So just so you know, Square, you might have seen them if you you hire Square, and basically is for free. You get a little, they send you in the mail a little white thing that you plug into your phone. Have you guys seen those? And they just swipe the credit card. So you can receive payments from credit cards. And so all you need is the app itself is free, right? And this is the app, you install it, but they also have invoicing app. The Square has a free invoicing app that goes with this. So basically I plug in this little thing, they give me their credit card, I swipe it, and it goes in here, and I get paid and I have to have a bank account for the money to be received by, or something like that. And the price is Square takes, I think, 3%. So 3%, I think it's 3% or something like that. And 3% is a lot, but that anytime anyone pays you with a credit card, anytime, that's why people prefer not to be paid by credit card, because you get less money, right? But if someone's going to pay you $1,000, would you rather not have the $1,000 or have $1,000 minus 3%, right? So you're going to go, okay. So you just have this little thing all of that is free for you. What's not free for you is that when the money comes through, the company sends you to the bank the payment minus 3%. But for a lot of people nowadays, it's, if you consider it inside of your costs, to your hourly rate, add another dollar, then it's worth it, because everyone has a credit card now, and not many people use checks or cash anymore. So consider that if you want to receive payment, you might want to you basically add the app, and you send an email to the company. They send you the little thing, you plug it in, and then there you go. You start receiving, you connect it to your bank account or to your PayPal or to other things, and then you start receiving. So I just wanted to show you that as a good app, as a good thing to consider to receive payments other than PayPal or Venmo or Cash App. All of these apps are apps that you download for free, the app. So Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, I only have because there's one, not a client, but someone it's a dentist I see who wants to be paid with that app, believe it or not, because I don't have an insurance with that dentist. And so I downloaded the app because that person asked me to pay them with Cash App. So I use that. So other than that, most people use Venmo or PayPal. So you download the app, and you have to have a bank account, right? And so then when someone wants to pay you, you give them your PayPal number, and that money goes into your bank account. Okay. So once again, if you start doing a lot of work, and again, it all depends on how important this gets for you. If you become a business person where you start getting a lot of payments, you want to have a bank account just for work. And that way, when payments come in, they go into your bank account for work. And then it's very easy at the end of the year to do your taxes, because you have everything you've paid, everything you've expensed is all in that same account. So we're talking way beyond what I can teach you here about using apps, but just consider that it's you just get 20 bucks and you put it in your pocket is one thing. But if you're doing this as a business and you pay taxes and stuff, then you need to begin to have clean, clean accounts where your accounts are not mixed with your personal money. Anyway, so the two apps I wanted to show you before we take off for lunch, a quick one. I just downloaded this timesheet one only because as a sample, this would be if you work for someone. Say Oscar is a business that hires you and he hires you to go work for someone. They might have something like this. And for example, one of the people that I do video for is a company in town called SB Bike. And it recycles old bikes and resells them, and it's a nonprofit. So I do lots of video work for them. They have an app they gave me that whenever I work for them, I sign in and then I sign out, but I use their system, right? So the company gives you an app to sign in and sign out from, and the one they use is called Lightning. And so when I work for them, when I start work, I sign in, I do my work, I sign out if I go to lunch, I sign in again when I come back, I keep working, and when I'm done, I sign out. And so they automatically have, I don't have to send them my hours. They automatically have my hours. So if you work for a customer, a person like that, they might give you something equivalent to this, right? Where every time you work, so you click on what client you're working for. So say that you're working for this client, right? You create a client, you tell them who they are. So in this case, I'm going to say plus, and I'm going to say today, for example, and I'm going to click on today, and that was the calendar. And I'll say what client I'm working for. This is a bit more for clients, which is how I do it. So I'm going to select a client, and I don't have any client set up here already. So let's just say that I already have one. Just go
And
back.
this is called time sheet?
Yeah, you wouldn't do this. I'm going to show you an easier time tracker, but this is for big projects. So it would be typically your client, your client might tell you, well, how many hours did you work today? And so you might say, I worked from 11 and I finished at 8 p.m. or something like that, right? And then, am I sharing? Yes. And then the next day, I'm exaggerating, that was a ton of hours. So you started at 6 a.m. with these guys and stuff like that. Or you could click in here and you just press start time. Next, it goes into the next one, and the end you only worked until 8:30 a.m. then. And so you enter it in different, well, one was PM and one was AM. Anyway, that's 23 hours. That's probably too much. Anyway, so this is kind of stuff you would have to work with whatever the one that their company gives you to work for. It's way too much for like an individual kind of person, but you might have to sign in and out that way. I actually use this toggle track, is the one that I use to track my time. And remember, in my case, for real, I'll have different things set up for if it's different, if I'm doing training or if I'm doing curriculum development or if I'm actually working on a design, I have different rates for different projects. So I have different levels of tracking, but I created something called gardening. And so say that I begin right now to garden. So I started, and you see how down here, say that right now I had walked into my client's house and I pressed the go, and it's tracking me. And that's it. And I just keep going. I do my day, right? And let's say that 3 hours have passed. I'm ready to be done. I open the app again and I press stop, and I'm done, right? And so then right now I went in twice. I went this morning and I recorded 22 seconds, and right now I recorded 28 seconds. So total today I worked 50 seconds planting.
Big bucks.
I'm a quick worker, okay?
Big bucks.
So over here, if I go in and check the details, so what I'm doing here, when I say over here, I'm going to check this one here. So I'm going to click on this one, and it basically says that I spent the time planting. I started at 10:58 a.m. and I finished at 10:58 a.m., 22 seconds on this day, okay? So if it was wrong and I forgot to sign in or sign out, I can also make a change. I can go, no, I actually worked. And it's so cool because I can just say, I actually worked much more than that. And so you can just change it to how much you actually worked, right? And you change the time. So right now I'm going to say that this other guy, I did some planting. So maybe I didn't plant for this person. Maybe this was a different job. Maybe for this person, see, I already have things that I have set up that I do tutorials and preparing, and one is planting, but I could add another project, right? I could just add a different project like purchasing stuff or whatever. And then you just, so for an example, on a certain day, I might do two different things. So on Friday, March 13th, I have these two different things and I a total of 33 minutes. So then later when I'm putting together how much to charge them, I have tracked, and all I had to do is open the app, press. So here we go. I open the app and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to press this little play. So once it's all set up, I just press play. That's it. I'm going to work for, say, for Oscar GG right now. Right? Or GH, but whatever. And there we go. I'm working for Oscar GH because I typed it in wrong. And it's tracking. See? So that's it. I'm tracking. If my client had already been established, I'd even choose my client, and it's tracking. And 3 hours later, I stop it. And later I'll be able to see, okay, so for client A, I worked 3 hours. For Oscar, I worked how many hours, you know, and there's tracking again. And there you go. So today I went to see 2 clients. This one that I did gardening for, and this one that is Oscar who pays me. And so now I worked a total of 1 minute and 15 seconds this day, but 3 seconds for Oscar, 22 seconds for Oscar, and then 28 and 28 for this other client. Does that make sense, you guys? At the end of the day, when they say, how much did you work or how much did you spend driving, you just track it by turning this on and off. You just need to remember to turn it on and off. Sometimes I forget to turn it off, but as long as I remember that I start working at 5 p.m., you can go in and you can make a change. So say that I remember that this was wrong, I can just click on it and change. My start time was actually, I'll move this around. I actually went in at 8 a.m. today. So I'll go in and I'll change that. And then I'll save. So then confirm changes. And now it's a bit more realistic, okay? All right. So there's many time trackers. This is the one that I've used for so long. I'm sure there's better ones, but I've used it for so long that I'm accustomed to it. And my projects and stuff are already set up in it for this one client. Other times I don't track my time, but this one client wanted me to track my time. So I'm track my time that way. Okay. So any questions? So I wrote in there the toggle track. This is the one that I just showed you. Oh, it's actually toggle in the app. I wrote toggle with E, but it's actually toggle track. So let me put it in the chat. There's easier toggle time trackers that are just in and out, in and out, in and out. That's great. I wanted more sophistication because I needed to track different types of jobs. That's why I got this one. But if you just look for time trackers, there's so many that all you do is in and out, and it just follows through whatever you did during the day of work. And so check that out by looking for time trackers. Okay, so what you would look is for search for time trackers. And I always write free when I do a search at the end of my request in the Google store or something like that, if you want to get the ones that are free. Still, they do offer you then the ones that, when you say free, they still offer you the kind that you need to then pay after a trial or use only 15 times or stuff like that, versus some that you need to download and pay off the top. You just know that if you download QuickBooks, you're going to have to pay, right? So if you don't tell me, I don't know. There are many ways to spend money. Great. Or to track your money. Yeah. All right. I'm going to stop this share. Oh, one more thing I didn't share with you, but for those, because I use Excel, which is a program to track, to do invoicing and numbering and sheets. And from the important thing for me on these apps is that they can, that I can send this information, I can export it to my Excel sheet, or I can export it to my QuickBooks. So depending on how complicated you get there, I need to be able to export the data of this time. I just say export, and then I open it up, and then there you go. There I have my time is ready to go for me without having to retype it. Okay, so that's the whole point of time trackers. All right, it's lunchtime. Yay. We stopped 5 minutes after the time, so we'll take 5 minutes longer instead of 12:30. Let's be back by 12:35. Okay. If you have any extra time because you don't do much lunch, please click on that survey that I asked you to. Other than that, let's enjoy, relax, go walk, move your body, and be awake and happy in half an hour. See you guys at 12:35.